Hello, hello, my scrumptious ravens. Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know, this is Ravens Real Talk, which is a talk show that I do every Monday. And the main point of this talk show is to talk about topics that have either affected us already at some point in our life, or will at some point, or may at some point affect us in our life. And the goal is to not only share experiences, not only to create a discussion, but also to educate ourselves and others, and to ultimately grow, reflect on ourselves and our lives, and become better people through these discussions. So I'm hoping that everyone or whoever watches can have some kind of takeaway from each of these talks that I have. Last week we did a Black Lives Matter Part 2 conversation. And every time the VOD is done, it is available on Twitch, but that's only for I think 2 months or so, and then they delete it. But it is available on my YouTube if you would like to check it out. So, without further ado, I would like to invite and welcome my two damn scrumptious friends that I've been fortunate enough for them to say yes to being on my show. It is The King Live and Malik Brown. But before I invite them on, I wanted to just say a very quick disclaimer that this is by no means glorifying or strongly advocating and advising people to engage in these types of relationships. The topic is casual relationships. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. We're mainly trying to just create awareness about this topic and these types of relationships because they are so rampant and so common in our society. They are not for everyone. I know society is, kind of shoves that lifestyle down our throat and encourages it and glorifies it. But really, we really want to shed light on the fact that this is not a lifestyle or a choice that should be encouraged for everybody. There is a lot of stability that is required to be in these types of relationships. And if you don't have that, you could leave the relationship so much more broken than you entered it in. So this is a judgment-free zone, but we do want to give that disclaimer out there because we don't want people walking away from this stream with a negative idea that this is like pushing that kind of lifestyle onto people. And if people are choosing to engage in these kinds of relationships, we want them to engage in these relationships in a safe and well-informed and healthy manner. So we're hoping that by exploring these subtopics and this topic, people can have a better understanding of what they are and then use this information to evaluate whether these relationships are good for them and will fit in their life. And that way, when they do make the decision, they're making a well-informed decision. So now, the bot is down. Whoops. I'm sorry. It's going to be up now. It's up now. So far, I learned from every talk that I have attended, and I'm sure I'll learn from this. Yay! That makes me so happy. I'm so glad. All right. So our first scrumptious guest is, of course, someone else that I met through Twitch Sings. I will never stop being grateful to Twitch Sings for allowing me to meet such amazing people. Sorry, Slay, can you do that again? It should be working now. Yes, okay. And please help me welcome Malik Brown. Hi, Malik.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Raven.
Malik, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so like Raven said, we met on Twitch Sings. I casually, in my free time, I like to make music. I've been picking up music production during, Corona and all this stuff. But yeah, I stream on Twitch, usually making music or playing Teamfight Tactics. That's me.
Nice. And, sometimes dabbling in a little Valorant.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, little dabble-a-roo.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for that. TFT, my favorite game. I know, Habibi, you on that grind. Wait, do you know what you're ranking right now, Malik? In TFT? Do you know what your rank is?
Yes, I am Diamond 3.
Woo! So. Wait! I thought it was up there somewhere, and that's why I was like, I'm curious. That's awesome. Well, congratulations. And I wish you luck on the grind if you choose to go further than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the next damn scrumptious friend that I made on Twitch Things actually as well. But the cool story about the King Live is that I first sang with him like 3 months before TwitchCon. It was when Uptown Funk was first released, and I was like, I gotta get on this. And that's how I came across King. And then I ended up meeting him at TwitchCon a few months later. I have not had the pleasure of meeting Malik yet, so hopefully one day I get that pleasure. But please help me welcome the King live. Hi, King.
That's me. Hello. Hello.
That's
How's your day going?
It's wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I just played a game of TFT before this, and I played a game of chess, and I got second in both of them, dude. I'm really upset about that.
Well, you're close, which means you can get the first place next time.
Yeah, you know,
True.
Yeah, second isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in chess it's pretty bad, but in the other one, it's not terrible.
I just got that.
I just got that.
I
Yeah.
just got that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
If you don't know me, my name is the King Live. I talk about Valorant and I eat Doritos, generally. But other than that, I also like to sing karaoke and I play other games sometimes. And sometimes I talk to people, so I feel qualified to have discuss this subject because I talk to people. Sometimes.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
not frequently, but sometimes.
Well, that's the cool thing about what I wanted to do here. I wanted to kind of have a spectrum of people on the panel. I wish more people felt a little comfortable. I know this is a weird topic for some people to talk about, and that's why I really appreciate that you both were okay speaking on this topic. And that was one of the things that I wanted to explore when I was doing my call out. I wanted to see if there was someone who identified as a female who would be interested in speaking on this topic. I did get one, but it was too late, like it was towards the end. But I wanted to know if that had anything to do with, you know, the double standards in society about...
Well, it's a good thing we have your perspective here then right now, right?
That's true. That is true. Yes, that is very true. But I was hoping to have someone on here with like way more experience than I do. But this is fine. I'm like really excited about this. So
No, I think this will be fun.
Yeah, I think so too. And I feel like we all are we're at different places on the spectrum, so it will give like a good unbiased opinion on and like stand on some of the questions. So before we begin, let's start with defining a casual relationship. Now, I've done my research and I actually created a whole chart and stuff based on my research, what a casual relationship is, what are the different types. But let's just ask both of you. So Malik, what is your definition of a casual relationship?
So my definition of a casual relationship is basically like when you're in a relationship, but there's not quite like a label yet. Maybe you haven't had the talk, which is like you've defined like you guys are exclusive with each other. But it can also mean a whole bunch of things. I feel like it depends on the person, but that's generally what I think of it as.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's just a label-less relationship.
Yeah, that's how I think of it.
Okay. And King, what about you?
I wrote down. I wrote notes for this, just for the record. I gotta keep my thoughts in order, you know, make sure that I'm giving my clear statements and stuff. But I basically for me, casual relationship kind of refers to somebody seeking companionship in somebody else without the facing the commitment of having like an actual committed romantic relationship. I don't think that this necessarily means that it's always sexual. I think a lot of the times when people think of casual relationships, they completely associate it with like sexual involvement. But I think that like it could also be just going on dates. You know, like just going to Applebee's late at night with somebody, and that's like the person that you go with. They're people that you watch movies with. Sometimes you're close to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in that one, is there a label?
No, not necessarily. But
Okay.
I also don't think that it excludes like being exclusive. I think that you could also have an exclusive relationship while having it be casual. I don't think that's necessarily the. I think that's where I would draw the line with commitment, though. Anything beyond that gets a little bit more committed and kind of crosses the line of casual.
And
I feel like
messy.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it gets really messy.
Which we will talk about later, because I feel like it's so interesting to just have two people define casual relationship, but slightly differently. And I feel like that's so important to note because some people will just leave it at that when they're dating someone or seeing someone, whatever it is, and they'll define it like, hey, we're casual. And both people may have different definitions of casual, which can lead to so many issues. So if you take anything from this talk, please take communication, because casual relationships can get so messy if you guys are not on the same page. So just by this sheer example of defining something as simple as, or as seemingly straightforward as a casual relationship, we have slightly two different definitions of it. So that's why I think that it's very important to define what a casual relationship means to you before you even attempt to get into one. That way you have your own clear definition, and then you can explain that to the other person and see how their definition compares against yours. And let's say they do have a different definition, but they're like, I'm cool with your definition. You've already set the ground rules. So like you guys hopefully won't have any issues in that sense at least. So thank you for that. I appreciate you guys giving your honest definition.
What's your definition, David?
A casual relationship. My idea of a casual relationship, when I think about it, is that you acknowledge that there isn't a future there, in the sense that you're not working towards a future. You're just with this person. It's companionship. You're spending time, whether it's sexual or there is attraction there and you're like working towards sexual. But I think for me, the defining part is more, there's no future. Like you're not working towards a future as you do in a relationship where you're committed and you're working towards a future together. So when I think casual, I think like, oh, we're just dating, but like we know it's not going to go anywhere. We're just kind of like dating.
Okay.
So that's how I think of it. Again, different definitions, slightly different. Oh shoot. Nesari, thank you so much for the follow. You see that, Raven? That is you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. And TFT crew. Oh, I will eventually play TFT. But Valorant, though, I'm on the grind, baby. I'm on the grind. So I did a little bit more research about what exactly a casual relationship is in a researcher's point of view. And the researcher, I believe what they did is they took a sample size of people who have been in casual relationships, and they got the definition from different people, and they kind of compiled like underlying commonalities between each of their definitions and where the differences were, and kind of clumped up the different facets of relationships. And they broke it down into 4 different types of relationships that are dependent on 5 different factors. So I thought this was really interesting, and I want to get y'all's opinions on this and how accurate do you think this is. So let me pull it up. Let's see if I can do this well. Okay, can you guys see that, or did I totally botch that? I need to open up
I can see it.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes?
I can see it.
Okay, ooh, look at me, professional streamer. Awesome, good, I'm glad. Okay, so they said there's 4 different types of casual relationships. It's on the purple side. There's a one-night stand, there's a booty call, sex buddies, or fuck buddies, and then friends with benefits. And what sets them apart are the blues, which are frequency of contact, type of contact, personal disclosure, discussion of your relationship, and friendship. So let's go one by one. One night stand. That's pretty straightforward, right, guys? Frequency of contact.
Yeah, I feel like that's
one night.
Yeah.
Your only type of contact is sexual contact. So that's kind of like, guys, what you see in movies, I guess. Like, hey, baby, you up? Oh, no, that's booty call.
Are you lost, baby
that's
girl?
Booty call. Yeah. One night stand would, okay, can you guys give me examples of a one night stand?
So my idea of a one night stand would be like going to a bar, picking somebody up there, and you guys spend the night together, and then you go home and you never see that person again. That's my idea of a one night stand.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I got it confused with booty call. See, again, it's important to differentiate. So that's one night stand, and I agree with that. I think that's what it is as well. And of course, since it's just one night, there's no expectation of like, how do you feel? Did you like that? It's just, actually, I've never had a one night stand, so I have nothing to contribute to this. Like, I don't know if you discuss your feelings. I don't know if you discuss how it was.
I think it depends on the person or like the experience. I've done it once, and we did discuss feelings. It was really weird. We almost discussed them too much because it made me a little uncomfortable, and then that's not necessarily the reason that we didn't talk anymore, but it seemed like they had other things going on in their life, so it didn't, like, it was more mutual. But
so feelings about like them internally, or feelings about how the sex was?
Not just not really the sex, but more like internal feelings.
Before or after the sex?
Um, both. Not during though. That would be a little.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
weird,
that'd be
you know,
weird. Like, I'm so heartbroken right now.
my parents hate me, and like like that would be like really bad.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting. Do you feel like by discussing your feelings prior to that kind of created a safe
I think
segue
so,
into sex?
I'm very like very into open communication though, so like stuff like that doesn't bother me necessarily.
So
When
it's not
people
like,
sh-
oh,
when people
we
share
crossed
things,
a huge bridge. Like, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But some people might not be that exact
Yeah,
same
that's
way.
more of how I am. Yeah, I'm the other way. I try not to like convey like or to talk about like feelings at all, especially if it's like a one night stand. So this made me realize that my idea of a one night stand can like vary because like I've had one night stands with like people in like social circles, right? And it's like it's not like we're not friends, but you know we're not exactly like strangers either. When we've like had sex once and then just never
Talked about it
talk
again.
about it. Never really talked about it again. It was just like, yeah, maybe we were both drunk.
Yeah.
And
it happened.
happened.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And do you know it's a one night stand going in? Is that ever a discussion?
Yeah, I feel like that's a discussion. Or like a statement more of.
They should have some idea. I think
Yeah.
that it should definitely be communicated. You don't want to be hooking up with somebody who thinks that it's more than it actually is. That just feels kind of douchey. But
Exactly.
I'm so glad you said that because I am a huge believer in, again, open communication. And I feel like for one person might be looking at something as a one night stand, and if the other person is not on that same page and they're thinking, especially if y'all are friends, if y'all are in the same friend circle and they might have had a crush on you for a minute, and then they finally have this opportunity to take your relationship to the next level, and they might be thinking like, oh, it's a start of something new, but you're just like, I kind of just wanted to. And that doesn't make you a bad person or anything. It makes you kind of shitty if you don't communicate that, in my opinion. Especially if you know the person likes you. Especially if you know, like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, that's when it's bad.
That's bad. Really bad. Yeah, don't do that. Discussion of relationship, no expectation of sharing thoughts on the relationship. Totally self-explanatory. And there's no friendship. You see them once, it's over. So that's pretty I think the one night stand and the booty call are probably like the most straightforward ones. So you have no reason to not be straightforward about those things, in my opinion. Booty call, repetitive contact. That's what we see in movies. Hey, you free at 10, you free at whatever. Now, my question though is it always a nightly thing? What do you guys think?
I think like
no.
I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, I sure think. But you go.
I felt like booty call was more of like it didn't feel as repetitive as like sex buddies when you compare the two. Like I'm trying to differentiate like the middle line of booty call versus like one night stand or like sex buddies, and I felt like more like booty call was like somebody that you like knew as opposed to like one night stand. I felt like it was somebody that you didn't really know. Like for a booty call, it seems like you hit up one of your friends who you might be close to, you might not be close to them, and then like they like come over. It's more personal, I feel like, but it's not necessarily serious. Like that would be my understanding anyway.
I feel like a sex buddy is the result of like a booty call.
Yes.
Like,
yes, I see that.
If that makes sense, like right, like maybe you guys like have sex one time, it was like really good, and you guys both had fun. Maybe you're both free again, and it happens again, and then you establish this relationship, and that's what sex buddies turns into if you don't want like a full committed relationship.
I like that. I think that's a good that's a safe statement because I can see that happening. Like I think I've heard it from people where they're just like, I didn't expect it to happen again. I thought it was gonna be a one and done type of situation, but like they called me again or we bumped into each other again and it happened, and now it's kind of like a thing. But it's not a thing to the extent where we like spend time together, we go to the movies, we go this, whatever. And in this one as well, it's only sexual contact and there's no expectation to like share your feelings, talk about the relationship, where are we going. Like we usually don't have conversations like that in the booty call and the one night stand.
Yeah.
Let me just catch up on chat really quick. So far, no tech problems yet during stream. I know. I know. Let's not jinx it. Volpine says, we all know my history with tech. It's odd that there should be a sexual contact because I think the relationship is more emotional than sexual, as there is a need for companionship. If the relationship is all about sexual contact, then that is just a ritual of pleasure rather than an actual relationship. 100%. And that's why we're defining this as a casual relationship, and that there are kind of like 4 different types. And the extent to which you engage in social activities outside of sexual activities determines what level you're at or what type. Husky says, I believe that a relationship in general should be mostly about love rather than sex, because then people are likely to cheat if a relationship is all about sex. That's an interesting take on it, and that's why we're specifically like honing in on casual relationships, because in general, yes, if you're looking for a type of relationship where you want more than sex, then these are not the types of relationships you should be looking for, because you're just gonna end up being kind of like more messed up from them, in my opinion.
Right.
Then yeah, like it's not the right way to go about it. Volpine says, if there never was a friendship and there isn't that expectation of making some connection to the other person, then there isn't a relationship. Oh, so you're arguing the definition of a relationship, the word relationship. That's very fair, because let me tell you guys a personal thing. I was in a situation where, like, now that I'm looking at this, I am guessing it was more friends with benefits situation, but people kept saying, y'all are in a relationship. No, stop. Y'all in a relationship. And I didn't quite understand what they meant, but it was the way we were acting that they were like, you were in a relationship. But in my opinion, I told my definition of a relationship is, I know there's no future and therefore it's not a relationship. So you're not wrong. Like, you have your definition of a relationship where there has to be like some kind of friendship and there has to be some kind of expectation of having a connection, which is my definition as well of a relationship. So I understand that, because they felt nothing at all towards each other except an intense desire to have a pleasurable moment of sex. Exactly.
I feel like the definition of relationship gets very fogged though, because like people, when they think relationship, they think like, oh, like your traditional like romantic relationship. Like, the problem is you have a relationship with everybody that you associate with at any point in time. So if I have a relationship with my teachers, I have a relationship with my dog, I have a relationship with my parents. You know, I am my dog's owner, I am my teacher's student, I am my parents' son. So it's just like, these people that you are interacting with, you have a relationship with them, therefore you have some sort of responsibility within this relationship to uphold like certain standards, I guess. And that's why we're talking about, like, with one night stands, you need to communicate, or with these different situations, you don't have a more or like a personal responsibility to this person, but like sexually, you might have like you can have a relationship in that regard. Yeah,
I agree. I like that you define that, because when my friends kept telling me this, that no, you're in a relationship, it just was rubbing me the wrong way. But then when I really took a step back and thought about it, I was like, no, it's fair. We have a type of relationship. It might not be a romantic relationship or a long-term relationship or a whatever relationship, but it is a type of relationship. And once I got over that word just meaning one thing, it like brought me more peace, and I understood where my friends were coming from, or people in my life were coming from. So sometimes it's just about like kind of rejigging your understanding of a word.
Yeah.
This connection isn't necessarily romantic, it's emotional, and this feeling of ease when around this person, as you feel more comfortable around them versus a random stranger. I think that comes out more in the next one, possibly, where it is, the next tier is sex buddies, aka fuck buddies. There is repetitive contact. You share both sexual and social interactions, which means you can do things like going horseback riding or going to an escape room or whatever it is. It's not just sex every time you meet. There is a slight expectation of discussing feelings and talking about the relationship. But what I thought this was interesting is what differentiates between sex buddies and friends with benefits, in addition to the friendship stage, is that you don't have to apply the intimacy bit, the knowledge that you get after discussing the intimacy, to your relationship. So let's talk about that, because I found that really interesting. So you can talk about your feelings and become emotionally intimate, but they don't apply the intimacy to their relationship. Meaning, I guess they don't let it define it?
Kind of. So what I always thought of this is that these two people, like I didn't expect them to go on dates, or that would never be my expectation if I had this sort of relationship with somebody. More so like you are intimate with each other, and then you maybe discuss like some personal feelings and stuff, but you're more looking to gain more understanding into how you feel, so you can apply it in like a future relationship that you feel like might excel in the future.
Okay.
So for me, for like sex buddies, I never thought of it as anything more than sex, but like they are close. They do spend a lot of time together. It is repetitive, you know, like that's the person that they do that with.
Mm.
I feel like the lot. Oh, were you gonna ask, Raven?
Oh no, that's a separate question.
Something else I wanted to kind of touch
yeah, I was
on
gonna
there.
say.
I don't think that this necessarily has to be like a person that you're like super like you feel like you can connect with them in a friendship level. I think that this could totally be like those situations where somebody's like, oh, that guy or that person's such an asshole, and then they like still hook up with them. I think like it's incredibly okay to be like sexually attracted to somebody while still not seeing any sort of romantic connection there, or even like friendship connection there.
That's a good point.
100%. Yeah.
Malik,
What were you saying though, Malik, when I interrupted you?
Oh yeah. What I was saying is that the line between like sex buddies and like for example, a friends with benefits can really like blur. Because like it's so hard to like I feel, or I don't know, I feel, yeah, like I said, I think like sex buddies is something that like somebody outside of your circle, like your social circle, like some people you normally talk to, becomes someone that you like hook up with on the more on the reg, versus a friends with benefits is like maybe someone in your circle that you're like already friends with, and you guys like hook up from time to time, and maybe you guys start hanging out a little bit more. So that's where I kind of like draw the line, but that line, like I said, can get skewed, especially
very blurry.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the research study said, or the experiment. It's more like for the sex buddies, you become friends after the relationship starts, as opposed to friends with benefits, where you've been friends before, someone from your circle or whatever it is, and then it turns into a sexual relationship. And I think the friends with benefits would be the closest that you can get to like our traditional relationship, where there's repetitive contact, you share social and sexual settings, there is expectations to share your feelings, talk about your personal like life, and discussion of the relationship, like what are we, where are we in our lives, and all of this, which I think is interesting, because that's where I think it could get mucky when it starts to feel like a relationship.
Friends with benefits?
Yeah.
I agree entirely, and that's when I think this is when the lines can get most blurred. And honestly, sometimes I feel like people will cross over from friends with benefits to like actual relationships.
Yeah.
But
and it's always good when it's like a positive crossover where both people want it. But when one person wants it and the other one doesn't, that can cause so many problems, I feel.
Have you ever seen those couples too when they break up and then they become like friends with benefits? It's like a really like weird.
Yes. Yes, I have. I don't see, that's tricky, because I feel that sex can be beautiful and intimate, but it can also just be a primal desire fulfilling act. So if you've had history with someone and there are still residual feelings, and that's how you're choosing to hold on to the person without consciously realizing that that's how you are, you're just like using the time that you have sex with them to like reconnect with the things that you've lost with that person, but you know it won't be a stable relationship that you can sustain. That can really be damaging, I think. Like, I don't think you'll move on from the person and heal. You haven't started your healing process yet. If that's what you're trying to do, it's not how it is. It goes down. I don't think that's how it works. But
There's a lot of people who would argue like the opposite, and they're like it's very comfortable for them. So I think that is very interesting how so many people can have different dynamics and stuff where like that works for them. They're okay with that and they're comfortable with that.
As long as they're not trying to heal, because in my opinion, I don't think that you can heal like that. But if that's how you feel comfortable with, you realize, you know, those people that you're like really good friends with, and then you think to yourself, damn, I wish we were in a relationship. I think like we would really hit it off. And then you get into a relationship or you're approaching that and you realize, oh, goddamn, no, we're just good as friends. Like, let's just leave it at that. I feel like sometimes that could work with the friends with benefits, where you get into a relationship with someone, you think that that's what you're good with. Like, you guys are compatible in that way. And then you realize, nah, I think friends with benefits is way better. So as long as you're not trying to heal. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that's super interesting because I've never felt that way. Like, you know, I had a friend that I was like, oh, it'd be really nice if we were in a relationship. Like I think, yeah, for most part, I think maybe it's just me, but a lot of the times I go towards different relationships with certain people, and like I kind of know like what I want for them. Not to say that I haven't had like feelings develop for somebody over time, but I feel like for the most part, that's what it is for me.
You know beforehand.
Super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are a lot of, you're actually not alone in that, because I remember one time I was having a real talk where I was talking about how I've only really had like a handful of relationships, and most of them, actually all of them, have developed into physical relationships after I've established a friendship with them first. It was like a friendship of like few months or a year or whatever it was, and then it kind of like naturally, organically transitioned into a relationship where it wasn't a friendship anymore. And there were so many people in my chat, at least 3, who were saying, oh my god, that's so weird, like I would never do that. By that time I've already friend zoned the person, I've like moved on to someone else, there's no way. So it is interesting that people have very different opinions and stances on if friends can truly transition, or once you're friend zoned, you stuck in that zone for good, or if people can break out of that zone, or, you know, it's really interesting how people view those kinds of relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just catch up on chat really quick. Oh, sorry, go for it.
Oh no, yeah. Well, while you catch up, I like, yeah. No, I think it's, I think that's so true. I also feel like when people do that, people don't necessarily like value themselves that much, or maybe like when someone's pursuing somebody that they've labeled as a friend, especially when like feelings are reciprocated, I feel like people tend to like lose like their sense of value in themselves and tend to go down this like slippery slope of like, oh, I really like this person, they don't like me back, and that like really like dawns on their self confidence and stuff. So that could be really toxic.
Wait, can you say that really again, quickly, please?
Yeah. So like so let's say you like when you know like you like a girl, she doesn't like you back, right? You're in the friend zone per se, but the person like doesn't want to give up like per se, or doesn't, not per se, but they want to keep on trying to like get this girl to like them. It can be like really defeating to your self-esteem or your personality when you keep on doing that. So that's personally why I like to kind of define my relationships. I'm sure it works like both ways, but like, yeah.
Oh no, that is such a good point.
It can get really toxic for a lot of people too. It depends on how you look at it. But like a lot of people start doing like more gestures when somebody tells them that they're not interested in them. They're like, well, look at all these nice things that I'm doing. They should like me. You know?
No,
that's when it gets really bad.
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in chat and you are in that type of friendship right now, I would highly advise that you reevaluate that relationship or that friendship, because it usually doesn't end well. Those kinds of things usually don't end well. And I feel like it takes a very, very special type of someone to be comfortable and confident and secure enough in themselves to stick around with someone who does not have feelings for them and continue to have feelings for them regardless of whether that person ever comes around. And that is like in its purest form of just having feelings for someone and wanting to be around them. I had the absolute pleasure to have a friend like that who, after I went through my first breakup, he was such an amazing friend to me, and I didn't even look at him in that romantic light. I was just so hung up on my first guy, and I just needed to heal. So we spent a lot of time together, like going out, we explored areas. It was never like a sexual thing, and it just organically turned into a romantic thing. And I think what allowed it to turn into that was that he did not care that I did not like him. I was very clear with him. I was very honest with him from the beginning that, like, my first guy is it, man. Like, I don't know, man. I'm still working on my feelings. I don't think I can move on from him. And he was like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm going to be here with you, just helping you through it. You know how I feel. I'm honest with you. But if it never turns into something, I'm cool with that. You just bring me so much joy just being around you. So I'm good. I'm set. I'm fine. And I don't think that's for everyone. So, like, really don't challenge yourself if you don't feel secure enough in yourself and you're not strong enough. It takes a whole bunch of heart, man. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Right? It's tough.
No, it is rough.
It's very tough.
It's really tough. Especially,
that's personally why I don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when he was also seeing me, like, see other people and, like, spend time with other people, and he'd ask me, like, how did it go, this and this. But, like, he never once made me feel like he was trying to cage me or, like, capture me. Or he never once did a nice gesture and then threw that back in my face. Like, I treat you so much better than all these guys you're going for, and I can't believe you're still not going for me. That would have been a done. Like, I would have been like, this is not what I need right now in my life. I'm out. Yeah, deuces for sure. So, really, really good point, guys. Thank you for that. Volpine says that's sexual though because it's assuming that everyone has a sexual desire when they have an emotional connection to another person. It just seems odd to me that there has to be that sexual need when establishing an emotional connection. If you're gonna have and then King says if you're gonna have sex buddy, then yes, they probably have sexual needs. Right. So we're not saying that in order to establish an emotional connection with someone there has to be a sexual connection. We're talking about the reverse, when you're initially attracted to someone based on a sexual desire and that's all you're looking for. That's what I think the core of a casual relationship is that fair? It's like mainly sex.
Yeah, well, we're the first 3 relationships that we were discussing, we're prioritizing the sexual aspect of them. So it makes sense that there would need to be a sexual desire if you're going to be having a fuck buddy or a one night stand or
exactly.
100%.
Volpine says, let's be clear about emotions. You can still feel anger, frustration towards someone and still have a connection with them more than a random stranger because you have gotten to know this person well enough to form that emotion's desire to be frustrated with them. So my view is that to be classified as a relationship, there needs to be some form of connection, whether it's mutual love, hate. Okay. And that's completely understandable if that is your opinion on what a relationship is. And that's good that you know that that's your definition of a relationship. Hi, Pepe. Interesting topic today. I will stay in the shadow and listen closely. Well, thank you for that lurk, Pepe. Hi, Snark. So nice to see you. And I missed that follow, but Laughing Goatman, thank you so much for the follow. You saw that, Raven. That was you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. Hi, Zessa. Nice to see you here. I can breathe. Yeah, I'm very happy for you. I'm so envious to know what others have been breathing like this their whole lives. I know. Oh my God. I'm really glad that you can join in as well, Zessa. All right. So let's move on to our next questiones, which is, what is it? Why do you think people pursue casual relationships over long-term emotionally committed relationships? So King, what do you think?
I wrote down a lot of reasons. Well, 4 particularly, I think, maybe. I don't know, looks like 4. The person doesn't have time. I think that's a big thing. Maybe I personally, I don't think that I have time for a committed relationship right now. I could see somebody casually, but I don't have time to be there for somebody all the time. I don't have time for, if I hang out for somebody, for them to spend the night and then the next day spend like 5 hours.
Half of the day as well, yeah.
It's like, can you go home, please?
Can you go home, please? Wait, have you ever had someone stay without like leaving?
I'm sure if I was in a relationship and I asked the person to go home, they would. But I just don't want to feel rude, you know. Like it's like, oh well, we're hanging out, you know. They want to be here, so I don't want to kick them out. But I don't want to be. I don't want to feel. So somebody maybe doesn't want to feel committed to one person. That's one thing. A lot of people do like the life of actually hooking up with multiple different people. My grandma once said, "Variety is the spice of life." So there you go. They have a high sex drive. That could be another thing. Maybe they just like to have a lot of sex. There's nothing wrong with that. And of course, people will say, "Well, you can do that in a relationship." Maybe it's just easier for them if they have like a fuck buddy and they just hit him up. And the person still feels emotionally committed to somebody else. And I think this is the big one. If you feel like maybe you got out of a relationship,
baby.
you don't want to enter a new one.
Woo! Tell them.
Yeah.
Tell them.
It can be kind of difficult then. If I was committed to somebody else, and in the past I've had relationships like this where I felt committed to somebody else and I entered a new relationship, it didn't go well, so I don't recommend it. But I wouldn't do that in the future. That was more of a high school thing, not really a now thing.
Yeah. What about you, Malik? Why do you think people...
Those are my reasons.
Yeah, I feel like Casey hit a lot of the nail on the head for a lot of them. I think another reason is maybe they just don't have the, you said they don't have the time, but maybe they just don't have the emotional capacity for a relationship. Like maybe they know themselves and they know that they're not the relationship type. Getting into relationships just right at that time is not good for them. Maybe it has nothing to do with them being emotionally connected to another person, but maybe they're just not in the right mindset to be in a relationship, right? Maybe they have self-esteem issues, or they're going through stuff, or maybe they recently lost someone that was a rock for them, and they're really trying to find themselves. That's not a good time to get into a relationship, because then that's how you create really bad habits. And yeah.
Yeah.
That could definitely be another reason.
Do you think one of the reasons could be that they want to explore their body with different people and see how different people can make them feel differently? You think it's a numbers thing?
I feel like that is definitely specific to certain people. I've never thought about it like that, but that is a super interesting way to think about it.
Because sex is different with each person. Foreplay is different with each person. How much passion there is different with each person. And also, another cool thing, guys, that I want to say is important to also note is I used to think that passion was equivalent with love. And it's interesting that someone can love you, but just not be a passionate person. It's not a them problem in that sense. It's just that's not them as a person. But then someone can just want you really bad physically and sexually, and that can be a very passionate person. So that's important to keep in mind, because then you won't get that twisted. You won't have super passionate sex with someone and be like, oh my God, they're really into me. Maybe they're just really into you physically, and that, if you acknowledge that, you won't let that mess with your head.
Or just really into the moment. Right? Not
or into that moment. It's true. Some people, you know, you feel good in that moment. Yeah. I thought this one was interesting when I read it online. Improve sexual skills. Do you think that quantity improves sexual skills?
I think absolutely, yeah. Quantity and just
You mean, wait, quantity of people or quantity of times?
I would say probably people and times. I don't really so if you're with different people, every single person likes different things as far as I've heard. I've only been with a handful of people. I haven't been with everybody. But if you're with the same person a lot, you learn what that person likes, but you don't learn how to communicate with somebody and figure out what they like quickly, I guess. So if you hooked up with somebody new, and if it took you 100 times with the first person to get it right, it's probably going to take you a lot longer. You know?
Okay.
So just learning to communicate with different people is going to be helpful. It's if you only talk to the same person for your entire life, and you're oh wait, other people have other interests. That'd be really weird, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm on the other side of the spectrum on that. I actually think you obviously, the more times you do it, you may try more things. So you're just, because of that experience, you're know more things that can happen or that you can do. But that doesn't necessarily lead to, a better sex. I feel like it's just that saying, practice is practice, but something about practicing perfect. If you're not when you're with someone and you have sex and you really try to understand what they like, it's super like, and you try and you translate that into your like relationships with other people. If you do that multiple times, I feel like you'll be, in general, like a way better lover than someone that just like has just like sex with, you know, random people
Yeah.
or like every other night or something like that. Like somebody's like very forward like that.
Yeah, I totally agree because I used to think because that's what's fed to you. See, this is an interesting point because that's what's fed to you. When I was growing up, I I come not only from a religious household but also from parents that were kind of like one and done's type. Like they married once and they were like, we're good. We're actually like happily married for 40 years. I've seen them go through like all kinds of struggles in their lives, and they just that they're happy with that. That's what they want. So I've seen a successful love story unfold. Like it was a whole like jock nerd type situation. My mom's a microbiologist. My dad was like she was doing her master's. He was studying law at the time, and he was like all into sports, a popular kid, whatever, debates, all of that. And she was the nerd, and like they fell in love, and that's that. So when I saw that growing up, I was just like, gotcha. So you can still have a successful life and marriage if you just have one person and you don't have to like play the field. So for me, but then when I was growing up, I saw all these people like sleeping around like crazy, and their numbers were just stacking up, and they kept saying like, well, you gotta use it till you lose it, and like if the more you do it the better you'll become, and all of these. And although I didn't practice that, it got in my head where I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's a thing. But then as I got older and I started just talking to people and having the confidence to actually openly talk about sex and discuss it with my friends, and a lot of my friends are guys, I realized, so, okay, I'll give you the biggest example. I would ask questions like, what did I ask? Has anyone ever licked the nape of your neck? And I was surprised where how many guys would be like, no one ever ventures there. Okay, then I'd be like, okay, how many have like, have you ever had like your skin bitten? No, I've never had that. Have you ever, like, I would just name things that are so natural and like normal for me, and I would be listing them and be like, no, I would love to try that, but no one's ever done that. No. And these are guys that have been like around, and it was interesting to see that even though they had the quantity, they didn't have the quality. And it made me realize that just because they had so many girls, it didn't mean that they automatically had better sex. So for me, I've realized that I think the willingness to get to know your partner is what makes you a better lover.
Yeah, I could see that. I think the benefit,
I learned that the hard way.
Yeah, the benefit of having one partner for a long time too is just the communication. So like obvious, or not obviously, I guess, but fairly often if you hook up with somebody once, it's gonna be fairly vanilla, just because like you're not gonna be doing like crazy stuff.
So true. Please say that again, because that is so important to note, guys. People think that it's going to be mind-blowing every time because it's new and it's fresh and exciting. Bro, I've heard stories. It's boring as hell sometimes. It's good to just
it'll
know
be vanilla,
that.
and like you also won't get feedback from it too. Like a lot of the times they'll be like, yeah, it was great, and then like you move on with your life.
And
know?
what?
Like,
right? Like, okay,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with that? That is so important to know, because I feel like we live in a society where, like, you know, casual relationships are so glorified and they're made out to be this fun, exciting, crazy thing. And they can be, but it's also good to note the reality of it, because it's not always like that. And sometimes it is disappointing. And that's just what comes with the territory.
Disappointing.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. That's the truth. And I think another reason people do it is curiosity. And I think another huge one, a huge one, is that they're just lonely and they just want companionship, which is probably the worst thing that you can do, in my opinion, is enter a casual relationship when you're lonely. I read something, which I think I'll address in another question. But yeah, I think loneliness is definitely not a good reason to pursue a casual relationship, because that's completely opposite to what a casual relationship's purpose is. It's to provide momentary satisfaction, momentary companionship, and at times a slight illusion of a relationship without being a relationship. And if you are not cognizant of that and you start believing in the facade that it could possibly portray, you are in for a bad time. Like, that is going to mess you up emotionally and mentally. Does that make sense?
I think that if being lonely is your sole reason to enter a casual relationship, I would agree with that. But like if it's a combination of like a couple of, so like for example, like I said, I feel too busy, but I also feel like a little bit lonely. So it's like I wouldn't have a problem with like the lack of commitment. I feel like I would like that for momentarily, and then I would get back to whatever I'm doing. You know?
Yeah. But if that's the only reason, that's what I'm talking about.
But if you are just like sitting there, you don't have any other commitments, you're super lonely, and you're like, oh, I hope somebody will give me the time of day. This person will for a second. It's like that's probably not good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Like, I'm thinking about people who are either emotionally attached to someone else and can't get that, so it's like this unrequited love and they're lonely, so they pursue this. Or people who just like have been out of a relationship for a while or haven't been in a relationship and are just like, I'm lonely. I know. And that's the sad part. We know that it's easier to get into a casual relationship, so we know like it's so much easier to just hit someone up and be like I'll give you there. We know people are so willing to give the bare minimum, and it's so common that we know that if we have our standards set to that, we will easily get someone. But if you're not cognizant of your own emotional stability, it could cause a lot of problems, I think, if you're only going for it to satisfy the loneliness. So I would highly advise against that. But King, what was your first reason?
Person doesn't have time. That was my very first one.
What was the second one?
They just don't want to feel committed to one person, or they might just have a high sex drive.
Oh, yes. Thank you. That's what I wanted to talk about. What I thought was interesting is when I was doing my research about the different types of casual relationships, I didn't see a differentiating factor. Like, I saw those 5, but what I didn't see as a differentiating factor, which I thought was important, is if you can have multiple partners. Because see, this is where it gets interesting. I thought when you have a friends with benefits, at least out of all of those, you only have one. But apparently that's not the case. You can have multiple friends with benefits at the same time. Is that correct?
It depends on the relationship, I would say. It has to be discussed. I have a story about that later.
Yeah, I forget.
If you want me to discuss it right now, I can tell you right now. But yeah, it felt like it was more appropriate.
Later.
Risks or consideration.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting because I thought that would be one of the facets or determining factors of which relationship you fall under, depending on how many you can have at a time. But it's not. It can go either way. So that's interesting. YTX2Kids2, thank you so much for the follow. You see that, Raven? That is you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. Yeah, that was really interesting. Had no idea that was not part of the, again, communication. So it could be one person or it could be multiple. You could be allowed to do multiple people at the same time. What do you think are some benefits of being in a casual relationship? Malik.
Probably, well, one, lack of, or let me not say lack of, lack of commitment. Sometimes you just don't. Maybe you want to play the field. Mm-hmm. Maybe you just got out of the relationship and you want to see what you got, or see if you still got it, for example. And you want to go hook up with other people, get into casual relationships. It would be bad if you went into a relationship and then cheated on them, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that would be the more mature way of handling it.
Yeah, I agree. Casey.
I also put less commitment, and sometimes life could be lonely. So like, I don't know, people like to spend time with other people. That works too. Or like as far as the less commitment thing goes, I think that some people are like between moves, you know, and they might not be sticking in one place for a long time. So it definitely makes a lot of sense for them to not want to commit to anything serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there's been. I mean, I have stories where I had an experience where I met this girl that was from where is she from? She was from Brazil, and she was in New York City for like 3-4 months. So obviously it's not going to turn into anything like serious.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, like a casual relationship made sense because we were like attracted to each other. So.
And I
That's
like
what
that
it
you guys
became.
talked about it. Like, it
Yeah.
really comes down to communication. That's really important. I really like that. And I think another benefit of a casual relationship is that you can have. So sometimes what I think about, like when I was doing research about this, it made me think of people who have been in a relationship where either someone couldn't keep up with them sexually or they weren't made to feel like attractive. And sometimes being in a casual relationship with someone who finds you extremely attractive can give you that, like, oh my god, you're so hot, you're this and this, without it being this heavy like relationship where you're committed and all of that. So kind of like for your self-confidence a little bit, it can possibly boost that up if
Your
you're,
ego.
yeah, your ego a little bit, especially
Hmm.
if you're with someone who maybe wasn't very adventurous or like sexually, and you're just like, bro, I have so much to give and I want to give it to somebody and no one fucking wants it. And then when you get into a casual relationship, you're like, I can give it to multiple people, spread that loving. And that could be another reason why. I think you had mentioned that, King, where you were talking about sex drive, and I thought that was very interesting. And what I want to mention, guys, okay, what I want to mention is another thing that is very misleading and very incorrect, in my opinion. Another thing that society kind of portrays a lot is that men have super high sex drives and women don't. And if a man turns you down for sex, there's something wrong with them. And women are usually the ones who do the turning down. But let me tell you, I genuinely
Not the
believe it is
case.
not a sex thing. It's a person to person thing. Some people
Hmm.
have a high sex drive. Some people don't. I actually made a quadrant. I wish I had it on me, but I made a quadrant about like the different like levels of sex and all of that. I'll find it one day. But it's actually a really important quadrant to focus on, because you could have someone, not just a girl or a guy, someone with a very high sex drive, but then they're not a very passionate person. Or someone very high sex drive, but they don't want to have sex very often. It really is a spectrum. That's a whole mixture of things, and you're raised to believe that men are just these like horny creatures all the time. And then you realize that you're a horny creature and you're like, wait a minute, am I not supposed to be like that? But there's no supposed to, okay? And then when you meet someone who turns you down, who's a guy, you think that's a you problem, because why aren't they into me? They're a guy, they're supposed to be all over me. So something to keep in mind. That's not real. That's not reality, guys. It's not
I
reality.
think this is honestly a good segue too into one of the questions that you had listed, where it's like the exact opposite kind of, where do females get more emotionally attached, or do they get emotionally attached faster than men? And I don't know if we wanted to talk about that because it feels like pretty much
I'm
on
down.
topic.
Let's go.
Dude, when I read that, I got like very triggered because I was just like, nah, dude, there's like, you can't possibly say that women get more emotionally
Yes.
attached faster than men when like a woman will accidentally bump into a guy in the street and he'll follow her for like 10 fucking blocks. And it's just like, I don't know, dudes like, they get just as emotionally attached, if not more. It's just like, I don't know. Have you seen the show You by any chance? Anybody?
Yep.
Son of- oh my
That is
Oh
so
my god,
good.
it's about a guy who like stalks a girl and like he starts doing like crazy things. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody, but it's just like, oh my god, it's dudes are creepy sometimes.
It's
They
a-
get very attached.
It's
So
a real thing.
that's not true at
I mean,
all.
I know some creepy ass dudes. I can 100% agree with that.
Sorry, Helen, I missed that follow, but thank you so much for the follow. You see that, Raven? That is you. You are now under my wing. Welcome. Yeah. What do you think, Malik?
I don't think. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that it's the case that like women get emotionally attached more than men. I feel like it depends on the relationship too, because I will say that and this is just my personal feeling. I'm no way saying this is like correct or not.
Yeah.
But I feel like in terms of like a one night stand, unless like more times often than not, I've seen the girl get attached to the guy after a one night stand specifically than other things, and I like sometimes wonder why that is. Yeah, that's just like from my experience with like my friends that I've talked to about it, and also like with me.
And what do you mean by attached? As in they text you the next day?
Oh yeah, they text the next day. Maybe they like initiate, like try to make plans to like hang out and like do some stuff. Like something that turns the one night stand into something more. And I've more often had girls. I don't know if I wouldn't consider that emotionally attached, but I would say like they invest a little bit quicker. But
I think that is
obviously
so interesting.
Yeah.
That could very much be a cultural thing
I was
too.
just
where, like,
about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, like where
like,
I
guys
am.
are
Where I
like,
am.
told yeah. Well, I just mean like in general, guys are like told that they're like, oh yeah, you're supposed to hook up with like as many girls as possible, and that's like a sense of pride for a lot of guys that they hook up with a lot of people, and then like girls are told they're not supposed to hook up with a lot of people, and like if they hook up with somebody, they're like, oh, well, are they gonna text me back? Are we like gonna see each other again? No.
Yeah, I was thinking along the lines that even if she wants to just keep it as a sexual thing, she might have it in the back of her mind, like, I don't want him thinking that I'm that kind of girl. It becomes like that kind of girl. So let me just like at least try to make this like no, we went on a few dates at least, so that she won't seem like a promiscuous person. So I am curious to see if that's maybe what it is, because I have talked to girls that are like, no, I'm good with just sleeping with the guy once, and like I'm genuinely okay with it. But I'm curious to see if they fake multiple attempts at communicating with the person and seeing them just so they can have that cover up, like, no, we were seeing each other for a little bit, like it wasn't just a one and done type situation. That would be very interesting to actually find out. And that's why I was really hoping to have someone on here that identifies as a female who has more of more experiences than I do, because I would want to know, like, have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt like you had to create like a cover story or something so that you wouldn't feel judged? Or did you ever be in a situation where you felt judged? But that's okay. That's cool. What do you guys think are some risks of being in a casual relationship?
You want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I didn't like write down one of the big ones, which is I feel like a lack of communication could be like a very big problem. It's gonna be a common theme of most things that I mentioned. I'm very big on communication. If you aren't on the same standards, or you don't really know with the person, if you guys are on the same page, then it can create a lot of problems, and one of you can end up getting hurt. One person could catch feelings. That's another really bad thing if it's like in a communication area again. But beyond that, I think some big issues that are worth mentioning are STDs. That's a very big thing that you should probably be cautious of. Yep. And I also wrote down, this is more of an extreme, but dying. That if you're going to a stranger's house for like one night stands and stuff like that, that is a little
think of that too.
Like,
why
like,
don't
very,
more
like,
people think about that though?
It's like a very like intimate setting. You're very close with the person, and you're kind of alone in their home.
Hello?
So,
yes.
Yeah. It's something to be careful of. I've heard a lot of girls take like, or not. I used to say girls, but everybody should do this. Honestly, they take precautions when they go to somebody's house and they'll like text a friend that they're going there or something. But like, yeah, don't just let your friends know at least if you're going someplace.
Definitely do that, guys. Send them a picture of the person if it's an online guy that they're meeting. So send your friend a picture and send them the address and let them know, like, here, I just arrived. And then, like, just text them, like, when you're leaving and when you reach home. I know that might sound extreme, or like you're freaking stalking them, but listen, it might save their life one day. You never know. I actually knew a friend who was locked in a basement from a guy. Like, she hooked up with a guy, and he locked her in his basement. Like, this real shit. And she escaped. So, this is real shit. It happens to people. You don't know. I'm actually surprised how common one night stands are because of this kind of shit. Like, this happens, guys. This is a real thing, and you really never know. Another thing I want to discuss is let's just say, right, someone is into extremely rough sex, and they get turned on by like beating up on you. You're not gonna know that. That's not something you discuss in your dinner with the person or whatever it is. You're probably gonna realize it when it's way too late. And you think they're gonna care about a safe word. I don't think so if they're that twisted and really scary. So it's just, well, sorry, not twisted. That's the wrong word, because I believe in no judgments in the bedroom. So if you believe in rough sex and that's your thing, or like extremely stuff, as long as it's consensual, I don't give two shits. But what I mean is when it's like you're expecting just a regular sexual experience and it turns into this crazy experience that you have no words to describe, and you're like, I was not expecting this at all. That's a scary situation to be in, especially when you don't know how to communicate with the person, or they become scary and like you don't know who you're sleeping with. So that's something to keep in mind too. It won't always be a normal person that you could possibly hook up with. Some people are very good at masking or manipulating the situation to make it seem like they're this nice person, whether it's a girl or a guy.
Yeah, putting on a facade.
Yes, and then they get you right where they want you, and they do whatever they need to do, and that's that. It's really scary, and it does open you up to situations of possibly being sexually assaulted as well. Just because you go to someone's place doesn't mean that you're automatically looking to have sex with them, and if they force themselves on you, that's an issue right there. So just like kind of keep in mind that people might be looking at this like, y'all are taking this way too seriously. No, this is real life. Like, it's good to think about these things and be like conscious about it.
Dude, I get worried when my friends take public transportation. Just to go into somebody's house. Oh, that's scary. Yeah, just like a little bit, you know. Crazy stuff happens.
Yep. Zessa says those apps where someone can literally track your phone live are in my mind. Yes. Then the pic is fake and they change. Well, yes, true, but you need to keep in touch with that if they do change venues as well. Yeah, basement. This is a communication thing. It is a communication thing, but think about it. If it's a one-night stand, are you really communicating a lot with them? Probably not.
You should.
You should, but let's be real. A lot of people don't, right? Especially if it's like a drunk situation. Zessa says, like King said, the movie You, honestly, not that far-fetched. I've had a friend actually go through something similar. People can be scary. Exactly. I don't know, man. It's just a little, maybe I'm just too paranoid or what it is, but like that's probably one of the other reasons I haven't engaged in a one-night stand before. What are some things to consider before entering into a casual relationship? So I can start us off. I think one good thing to definitely consider is where you are in life. Like if you're in school, that would be a judgment of how much time you have to give. Where you are emotionally and mentally, that's another good giveaway of whether you should be entering into a casual relationship or not. As King said, if you're emotionally invested in someone else, or if you have just recently gone through a breakup and you're trying to like get over someone by getting under someone, it's usually not the healthiest way, and it could cause a lot of emotional instability and your emotional readiness. So if you are emotionally attached to someone else, probably not the best route to go about. Knowing that things will end with this person eventually. This is not a long-term thing. So what I liked in the article that I was reading, and I'm so glad that they mentioned it, is acknowledge that if you're going to have a friends with benefits, you most likely will lose your friendship after that relationship, that sexual relationship ends. So because a lot of people can't divide the two after it turns from a friendship to a sexual and then back to a friendship. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. People do go back to being friends normally, but it could possibly end the friendship as well. So what the article was suggesting is try to pick someone that you're friends with that you don't see often and they're not like an integral part of your friend circle, because that way if you lose them or you don't, it doesn't work out, like you don't have to see them all the time. And another good point that they made was make sure you're already okay and happy in your life. And this was a good one. Choose someone else who is emotionally stable. So not someone who's looking for you to fill their voids, for you to make them feel like a certain type of way. They're good on their own. They're just looking for fun or casual sex or whatever it is. Make sure you both are satisfied. That's something else to keep in mind. Am I going into a relationship where I'm willing to satisfy the other person? It's a choice, guys. It's a choice to please the other person and put in the effort to learn the other person's body and how they work. And also the last one that was mentioned in the article is to know that the other person will be doing whatever they want if you do not set the boundaries, like, listen, we're exclusive, it's just you and me, or yes, you're allowed to sleep with anyone you want, I'm allowed to sleep with anyone else I want. So I think those are some good things to keep in mind. Were there any other ones that you guys thought, or if you wanted to build on any of those?
No, I think. Oh,
you can
yeah. Just to throw one in real quick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just some things to consider is like, will I be safe with this person in general? Like you said, like there have definitely been girls that I've been with where like I got the crazy eyes.
Ooh!
Like, and I was like.
Damn.
Like I was drunk and I was like caught up in the moment, and you know, like we were like we had like started making out, and then like I took like, you know, like like I looked at her and she just had the crazy eyes, and I was like, oh, it was like a yikes, and like that.
Oh
I
my
remember that sobering me
God.
up like so much, where I was like,
Sobering
yo,
me
like
up.
I was like, holy crap, okay, I need to
It was sobering
I need to
him
think
up.
about
I'm
this.
dead. Oh,
I was like,
wow.
whoa. No, yeah, but
Damn.
yeah.
And I'm so glad
Do you know what I
mentioned
mean by
that.
crazy eyes, though?
I'm just thinking like big googly eyes that are just like, you're gonna be with me forever, right? Type of look.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially,
Okay,
yeah.
that's crazy. And I really like that you mentioned that, because people have this misconception that guys cannot feel unsafe. It's usually guys who make girls feel unsafe, but listen, it goes both ways. Women can be crazy too, or people who identify as female can be crazy too. They can also be emotionally unstable. Excuse me. And it's good to recognize that, because then you're kind of like prepared. If it does go that way, you won't be thrown off guard like, oh, I didn't know women could be like this. You know that, you understand that as an expectation, as a possibility.
As a possibility. Like, and I also have friends that are like, oh, I like them a little crazy, that's fine. And I'm like, all right, I'll be over here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I think there is a limit to the type of crazy. If they mean like slightly possessive, maybe that works for you. But if they get overly possessive, I don't think that's like a healthy crazy to be sought after. But to each their own. I guess people learn the hard way, right?
So I knew a girl who tried to run over her husband, and I think that's where I would definitely draw the line. I'm like, this is not okay. I think they got divorced, and then they got back together. I don't really know, and that's a weird dynamic though.
Yeah, definitely a weird dynamic.
Yeah, I would definitely get out of that, but.
Oh yeah, 100%. Would you guys get into a casual relationship with someone who was already married or in a committed relationship?
Probably not, though.
Why not?
It just feels like if they're being if they were honest with their partner and like it was like an open relationship and they were like interested in like hooking up with somebody else, that would be a completely different story. But like if they were hiding this from their partner, then that would be a big red flag. Because they clearly don't have respect for their partner, so why would they have more respect for them, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that you mentioned that if it's open and transparent and they've talked about it, that's a different story. But if not, then you're not into that. What about you, Malik?
I would say I wouldn't do it intentionally. Like, I think I agree a lot with what King said, but you know, unfortunately, I have been in that situation before where I found out someone was married after the fact, and I felt like a piece of shit.
Oh.
So like, yeah, and so like I would never do it intentionally, but yeah, sometimes, yeah.
Shit, that's
I felt so
heavy.
bad for her.
Oh my
I felt really bad. I felt really bad about myself, and then I felt really bad. I felt bad for the husband. I was like, dear God.
Yeah.
Like
he didn't know.
Like if this has happened, I'm sure I'm not. I hope I'm not.
I hope you are the only one. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man, I really like that you you mentioned that you both mentioned that it was you wouldn't go forward with it if you had knowledge of it, and that it wasn't being communicated. And what I would like to add to the table is I've been in a mind state before where I was so emotionally messed up where I didn't care. And not that I like physically acted on a situation, but I can also see how someone can be in a stage in their life where either they've been so hurt or they're so numb that they're like, not my problem. It's kind of your business. You're the one married. Like, I'm not. I have no commitments to anyone, so you're only going to fuck up your life. And to a certain extent, I can understand that because you're not the one who has made a commitment to someone. However, like, the morals in me do definitely like yell out to me and be like, nah, BB, don't do that. Like, that's not cool. How would you feel if you were on the other end? But what I'm saying is I can understand that I understand that there are people out there who are in the stage in their life where they're just like, I don't fucking care. And they would be okay continuing in a relationship with someone knowing that they are married and they're technically the side person.
Well, and like on the other side too, some people validate it where they're like, okay, well, I know this person's in a relationship, but I can hook up with them because their partner is shitty, or like, yeah, like he's abusive, so it doesn't matter and stuff like that. And it's still not a very respectful thing to do to yourself, honestly. And just like take advantage of that relationship. That's weird.
Yeah, that is such a good point.
Yeah, I feel like I used to feel that way, Raven. I used to like not care.
Yeah.
Like until it happened.
Oh, 100%.
And then I was like, okay, no, yeah. So I was like, that's on them. Like, it's not my fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or like, you can't blame me. Like, all I was doing was existing.
Yeah.
And then, it happened, and I was just like, well, never mind.
Yeah.
I feel like garbage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was probably one of the lowest points in my life, I would say. Like, it was at the time where I was like considering self-harm and stuff. So it was like a very, very bad time in my life where I was not myself anymore. Like, I couldn't even recognize myself. I was so far gone and I was so different from like the core of who I am that as soon as I snapped out of it after a few months of being in this mind state, and thankfully and luckily and fortunately not acting on that mindset and that thought, that when I snapped out of it, I was like, holy shit. So that's how it can possibly be. Like, people can possibly get to a point in their life where they're just like, I don't really care. Like, it's not really my problem. It's not my fault. If you don't recognize that your man is suddenly like spending a lot more time on their phone, going in the washroom, you hear them talking on the phone, doing all these like shady things, like, is that really a me problem? That's a you problem. You need to have like more attention in your relationship. And that's a justifying thing where you're like justifying it in your mind that it's like you're just being a dumb partner by allowing your partner to pursue other relationships. If you paid more attention to them, maybe you would notice that they were cheating on you. It's really fucked up. It's really fucked up.
A lot of that too, like a lot of the times they do know. It's not something that they are unaware of, but it's just like they're stuck in an abusive relationship where a lot of the times there's other tendencies that the person's cheating. Maybe they don't feel safe in the environment that they're in with that partner. Maybe they don't feel like they can leave. There's a lot of different things. So it's like this other person coming in, they're like, oh well, it's their fault. When in reality they are the victim and they are scared a lot of times.
That is such a good point. Yeah. Yeah, so I did want to bring that to the table because that is something that unfortunately I have experienced in my life, those thoughts, and it's thoughts that people don't normally talk about. It's kind of like taboo to talk about these like real things that people feel and go through and the justifications that people have. And that's why I feel like real talks are so important, because it's important to know that there are people who feel this way and justify things, and it's okay if you're that person, but maybe just reevaluate the possible damage that you could do by taking those thoughts a step further and actually starting to act on them. And you could possibly like not only ruin someone's life, but I don't think it's also healthy for you to be in that situation. And I was thinking that way, by the way, guys, because I had very low, not only low self-esteem, but low self-worth. So if someone was giving attention to me, despite the fact that they were married, I was just so happy someone was looking at me. You know what I mean? Like, I was just so happy, like, wow, at least someone cares about me. At least someone is interested in me. Because at that point in my life, I felt that I was kind of, like, worthless. And I was almost like a burden to people around me. So when I was just okay with anyone giving me some kind of attention. Which is a really sad place to be in. And if that's a reason that you use to pursue casual relationships, it's not healthy, guys. It doesn't end well. It's not good. But you could also be on the other end, and I wanted to mention this when we were talking about the if girls get attached more often than guys do, or quicker. That have you guys ever been in a situation where you explain to the person that you're, this is gonna be tough, but I'm gonna say, have you ever explained to the person that you're not physically attracted to them, but you think that their physical attributes are attractive, so you're okay pursuing a physical relationship with them? Like their face is not attractive. Like their face is not attractive, but their body is.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
No.
Okay, I was like, you just contradicted.
Yeah, sorry, I should have
understand what you're talking about, though. My friend had been told, the expression that she used was butterface, as in like she's.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, like as in her face is ugly.
Yeah.
But like her body is nice. And she's been kind of shamed for that. But no, personally, I have no experience with that.
Okay. Malik's thinking.
Experience with that.
Sorry, say that again.
I've had experience. I said I've had an experience like that.
On what end?
But I didn't. I would never like say that to a person.
Oh.
Like I've had a physical relationship with someone that maybe wasn't the most attractive. Like they didn't have the most attractive face, but they had a nice body. But I would never go and tell them to like they have a terrible face.
What if they asked you
or something? If they asked me what their face was, I probably wouldn't even do it with them at that point, because I'm like, Or you mean like if we were like having sex and then they asked me like, what do you think of my face? Like, what do you mean by that?
What if you
are
like mid sex? They throw the question.
No, that's so awkward.
No, that
is so awkward. But
I would run.
Yeah, but if you're friends with a person and they're just like what do you think of me? And it's going towards like it's heating up and it's kind of becoming like a flirtatious relationship, and they ask you like, what do you think about me? Do you think I'm attractive? Like, do you find me attractive? And then how honest would you be? Would you say like, I think you have a great body, but
yeah, I'd probably say like, you're hot, you have a great body or something like that. But I wouldn't say your face is ugly. Right?
Okay,
like,
you don't have to say their face is ugly, but would you say that I'm not attracted to your face?
No, I feel like that's
I definitely
It also goes against like whatever you're trying to do.
Because if they have like a facial structure that they can't change, and that's like something that you're like not attracted to, of course I'm not gonna express like, hey, I don't like this part of your body that you literally cannot change. But if it's like hey, maybe you should cut your hair or something like that, you know, like little things that like, I don't know, maybe that they should know, like, hey, like your hair is like really messy, like, you know, like dudes who like just have like the really gross beards and stuff. Myself applicable right now. It's just like, just shave, like, you know, like that might be a good thing for the guy to do. That might be like a okay recommendation. But if it's like, oh, you have a terrible nose, no, I'm not gonna tell the person that. Like,
okay, I guess that's fair.
Oh my god, I'm just imagining like that ever happening. But like, I don't ever feel like a smart person would do that, or like aware, like if they're going into it with the intention of having any sort of relationship with the person, it's probably not a good idea to tell them that they're unattractive in any way.
Yeah.
That's my thought, right? If you're going at it straight from like, this is what I like, someone tells you like, how would you rate me from 1 to 10, and you give them a number and they ask why, and it's like,
that's what I mean.
At that point,
like they're really digging.
Like they're really digging for it.
Yeah.
I'd probably call them out and be like, I feel like you're reaching right now.
Really?
But yeah, I definitely, I 100% would call them out and be like, I feel like you're digging for something right now. Yeah.
Interesting. So I've
Yeah, I would call them out.
been very honest and explained to the person that I don't quite find them attractive. I find their personality traits attractive, but I don't find them attractive. And then they have, I've been in a situation where they have like explicitly asked, like, what don't you find attractive? So I would say, like, there's multiple things. It's like, I just don't find you attractive. Like, for example, like your height, and I don't think that you're attractive.
I see what you mean.
And I think that is something that people should not be asking if you are not ready for the real talk. Do not ask people and expect them to lie to your face, baby. Because, listen, if someone asks me if I find them attractive and I say no, and you keep going, I'm going to give you the truth. Like, I'm not going to shy from the truth, because you have now you're pissing me off, because I literally just told you no, and you're trying to find out why. So I'm going to tell you why. I think that's completely fair. I think that's completely fair.
And if you're not attracted to somebody, you're just not attracted.
You're just,
to them,
sometimes you don't know why. You're just not.
Yeah. You're just not into it.
You're just not into it. And I think what else I find interesting about situations like that is people understand when guys sleep with girls that they only find physically attractive but not facially, but they don't understand when girls sleep with guys that they find physically attractive but not facially. It's like a double standard. When girls sleep with a guy who they're just like, I mean, I like that they have abs. They're not the tallest person and they're not very attractive, but I like that they have abs. They got great arms. Sometimes that's enough for someone to sleep with them, for you to sleep with them. And that's okay. Why are guys given the green light to do that? And it's more understandable, but not for girls. Because it's true. It does happen to girls too. It does happen to girls too. And I did want to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel that usually the type of person that complains about it does not fall on that side, and maybe they feel like they don't want to. Like, I feel like a lot of the time it's in their control to maybe go towards more becoming some of that person. Like, maybe like it stems from jealousy more or less is what it is. Like, people that complain about it stems from jealousy rather than like and insecurity rather than like a matter of truth.
Wait, can you build on that, please?
They wouldn't. Yeah, like let's say, like, I don't want to say like an incel, right? Because that's like taking it to the extreme. But like someone who's complaining that, it's not fair that girls always hook up with hot guys, but they never want to like talk to me, even though I'm like a really nice person. And it's like, if you don't think you're objectively hot and there's things that you can change about yourself, then that that you can change about yourself, it's on you, right? If you think you are at your best and there's not much that you can improve on, one, that's probably not true, but two, like, there's probably things that could make you more attractive. So then, because I promise you, if they were in the situation where hot girls were coming after them, they wouldn't be saying anything. It's always the people that like get the most girls that say nothing. Is what I've learned.
I think what I meant is when people, let's just say I find someone that is not very physically attractive. Okay, let's just say I'm not physically attracted to their face. I'm not physically attracted to their height. But let's just say I like their abs and their arms, for example. Let's just put it at that. And then I sleep with them, and then afterwards they're like, so that means you do find me attractive. And then I would hit them up with, no, I said I don't find you attractive, but I just find like I like your arms, I like your abs. And then they are shocked that you would still sleep with them. They don't understand that you can sleep with them even without finding them fully attractive. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But with
I know exactly
guys, when guys sleep with a girl and they're like, I just liked her boobs and her butt, or I just liked her waist or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I get that. I understand why you slept with her. Like, it wouldn't be like, but you don't find her attractive, so why'd you sleep with her? there's more questions surrounding when a girl does that, but not when a guy does that. And it's very hard to believe when a girl does that. It's always like, so did he have a good personality or something? Or was like, what else did he offer you that you were okay just sleeping with him when you don't really find him fully attractive? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I thought that was really
I've never thought about that perspective, like that perspective at all.
Yeah.
No, that's super interesting.
Yeah, and I just thought that was interesting. Because there are those double standards that I really feel that our generation are kind of like agents of change that bring these conversations to light and these controversial views to light that are based on facts and reality that people just don't talk about because they're either shy or society doesn't portray females in that light, you know?
Yeah, without derailing the conversation too much, I don't know if it's more of a society thing and more of a culture of where you are sort of thing. Because like in New York City, like nobody's gonna shame you for sleeping with someone. Like for example, where I'm sure in a more conservative place, that would be, people would ask more questions in general about you having like a casual relationship with somebody. So like I feel like it's more of like where you are. If you go to like Miami, for an example, nobody's shaming you. It's like hookup city over there.
Oh, that's interesting.
Or something. Yeah. So like I feel like it's more where you are. This depends. This is where the questions get asked.
I think there's some struggle too. So I'm from North Dakota, and I know you're from Canada, right, Raven? So that probably doesn't mean a whole lot to you, but it's very conservative and it's very small. Like we're probably one of like the smallest populations in the U.S. And with that comes most people in my town know each other. Or if they don't know each other, they know somebody who knows that person. You know, so it's like if two people sleep together, it's like people find out. You know,
oh my god!
Yeah, and I don't know. It's kind of interesting where it's like I don't know, word gets around, and I grew up here too, so I know like. Obviously, I don't know like half the people in town, but I know a lot of people here. So it's just like I don't know. You hear that somebody's together, and you kind of like get word of it. And, I don't know. It's interesting. It's like it's like high school 2.0 sometimes.
Yeah. Ooh. I don't know how I feel about that. Like I'm a very private person. Like even when I do my real talks, I never give like names and like really deep details about my relationships, just in general. So it would be very strange for me to live in a place where a lot of people know my business, you know. That would be very interesting. Lord have mercy. I don't know how I feel about that. What to do? Pepe says, what to do if you are attracted to somebody's voice? Ooh, I'm sure there's a word for that. I'm sure there's a word for that.
He's got a nice voice.
Ooh, yeah. Rhetoric, right? Rhetoric does have a good voice. Snark says, I think that goes hand in hand with the preconception that men have a higher sex drive than women. Everything reels back to a gender stereotype. Yes, that is so true. And I love that you tied it with the sex drive bit, because that's something that I only realized after I got older, that whole thing it's like almost a myth. That thing is a myth. Like there are so many girls that I've met that have a very high sex drive, but when I talk to my guy friends, they're like, nah, like no, girls aren't like that. So it's very confusing getting this mixed match of information when I've also talked to guys who don't have a high sex drive, and I actually when we're having conversations, like I beat them in that department. So it's almost like where are these where's this information coming from? You know, or is it just a generational thing? Is there something in the water that people are just having lower sex drives in general? I don't think that's the truth, but
I think that it probably might seem generational to some people, just because like it's becoming a lot more common or like accepted for people to have a higher sex drive nowadays, or like hooking up is like it's a lot more common nowadays than it was like years ago.
For sure.
I don't think it's necessarily more common though; it's just more accepted. You know?
More accepted, yeah. So people are more vocal about it. Yeah.
I think time has a factor to play in it. You know, people live longer generally than they did, let's say, like 20, 30 years ago, right? Like I think the average age of somebody was like I think like in like 60s, it's like 60s, and now like with modern medicine and things that are happening, you know, the age of getting like the age before you like pass away is getting older and older, like 70,
Mm-hmm.
80. Like it's more common for that to happen now, which means that's an extra like 10, 20 years that people have,
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't have, like that wasn't as much of a thing before. So like maybe there's not, I've thought about this. I'm like, maybe some people just don't feel as rushed because they feel like they have more time, but maybe like unconsciously.
Doesn't your sex drive die
Oh,
out like later in your life though? Like,
I've heard that. I hope that's not
has that
true,
time
but
changed, or like, so we have longer life expectancy, but like
exactly.
are people
That's
like
a
over
good
50, like
point.
their sex drive is
That's
pretty
true.
much dead?
So maybe it is
Yeah,
what
I
I
mean,
was saying.
I just
the
pissed off
I'm
some
not
generational
over
thing.
50-year-old in
50.
chat, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody's
I was
50
like,
in
I'm
chat
not
and they're
50.
like, I'm horny as fuck. Like,
I'm having sex right now.
That's
uh,
that's amazing though. Like I personally speaking, I hope that I'm healthy enough to just have a healthy relationship with someone, um, and also a happy, healthy sex life as well. Well into like later years in my life, if I'm meant to live that long. I I've seen it in the sense that I've seen people that seem like they still have that spark and they're like in their 60s or in their 50s, and it's just so beautiful to see. Like eventually I would love to be in a relationship that ends with, you know, like marriage and being with someone for a long period of time. And I feel like it's not a what's that called, it's not it's not unlikely, I think, for that to be a possibility. I just think it really depends on the person. Do you guys think that if you don't have a high sex drive, you can still have a lot of sex?
yeah, I don't have a very high sex drive. Not to say that I currently have a lot of sex, but like in the past, I don't know. I was fairly sexual, and I don't really have a massive sex drive.
And what does that mean? Like someone got you in the mood, or you knew that that's what that person needed at that time, so you kind of like started doing it mainly for them and then you got into it later?
Probably the first one. Like you're just kind of hanging out with the partner, and it's something that they're into. I wasn't like opposed to it, I guess, but
But it's not like I want to do it. Like it wasn't like
yeah,
that. They kind of initiated their
like
desire for it.
I will survive if we don't. Like I'll be fine. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. And I think that's really interesting because I've recently, like I told you guys, I've recently realized that people do exist out there who are men and they don't have a high sex drive, and I didn't even know that that was a thing because it's like shoved down our throat that guys are just horn dogs all the time, which is so inaccurate. And it's interesting for me to reflect on, me being a very you know, that kind of person. Could I be in a relationship with someone who doesn't have a high sex drive, but they are willing and open to being persuaded into it? You know what I mean?
I think persuaded is the wrong term because that
Yes,
sounds
as
kind of
long
like.
as you're okay.
Sorry, not persuaded, but
Yeah.
like worked into it. Sorry, that's what I was trying to say.
Working.
They're
Yeah.
comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As in, like, you initiate,
I
and
think-
you're like, it was like, cool, are we good? We want, yes, no. Down to explore, right?
Yeah, there's a term.
Yeah, down to explore.
As long as you're okay with that being the norm, that like you're usually going to be the one initiating it.
Exactly.
As long as you're okay with that and you can accept that, and it doesn't make you feel less because
Yes.
the other person's not initiating as much as you. If that doesn't bother you, for sure. If not, then you should probably reconsider.
100%, and that's why it was so important for
Yeah.
me to think about it, because I didn't know people like that existed. And then now that I have that knowledge, it's good to know that about myself. Like, can I do that? And I've come to the conclusion that I cannot be that person. I want that person to also initiate a lot of the times, because I realize that when the other person that I'm with, that I love and care for, initiates that, and they're like, they show their desire towards me, that makes me feel attractive and it makes me feel wanted, and I want to feel that way. So that's something that I've realized, and I wouldn't have known this if I hadn't have got this new knowledge that people like that exist. So more you know about yourself, the better, guys.
True.
I need to resubscribe for that Raven emo. Hi. Well, thank you, Pepe, for wanting to. Hi, Vic. A lot of it, like, overtime with different people, or a lot of it, which period will... One person. Like, I just meant in one relationship. Miss Icy, thank you so much for that host. Hi, Tricky, and thank you for those Raven bits. The next question is, what types of things are important to talk about with your partner before engaging in a casual relationship? / what does a typical contract look like between you both? Malik, you can start us off.
Sure. Contract.
Or I guess the first question is, do you think it should be like a contract?
Yeah.
It should be legally binding.
I think yeah.
Take him to court.
Legally binding, and you need both parties to sign. This is a ripoff of How I Met Your Mother.
Have a witness.
No, but yeah, exactly. No. But you definitely there needs to be ground rules. You know, like especially if it's going to be more of like as we define like fuck buddies, sex buddies, whatever. There needs to be like ground rules set so that it doesn't turn into anything more if that's what both people want. So like rules like, you know, like I've had situations where it's like no cuddling after sex, stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, or like no staying another time, like no staying the night.
Yes,
Like,
I've heard of that one.
Things like that. Things that like just can lead to like more personal bonding. And I'm trying to think of like other real ones. Like,
have you guys discussed
like no hanging out outside of it? No. My assumption is that it is not exclusive until it is said that we are exclusive.
Got it. So that's not something you address beforehand. It's more like, if that's important to you, you should bring it up type situation.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Like I would expect them to not think it's exclusive unless, you know, we have the talk and we both decide it's exclusive, right? Like, that, I mean, it's happened in the past where like it's come up that like I was hooking up with somebody else and they were like, oh, I thought we were exclusive, and then we have a talk, right? But like,
it was never brought up. So like, how am I
that's
supposed to know?
It was never brought up, so I was like, nobody knew. But
I agree entirely with that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna bring it up because it's awkward to talk about, and it's like a conversation that doesn't necessarily need to happen, especially when in a relationship that's already like so fickle.
Yeah.
If it's purely pleasure based, like why are you gonna have that conversation?
Yeah,
right? It's not enjoyable to talk about.
Yeah.
As I hope that doesn't sound like heartless or something, but
no, hey, it's real talk, man, real talk.
Yeah.
So I actually had a story for this one. This was my story that I mentioned earlier. Well, first of all, I'm gonna cover the other two things because I feel like they need to be addressed. You need to set your boundaries. If you're going to talk about boundaries, you need to set those boundaries, like you said, like no cuddling afterwards, or like in the Little Dicky song where he's like, "Can you not play with my hair?" I like that line.
Oh, because maybe that's his thing. Maybe that's his thing. Like that's
it's like his thing. Like don't do that thing. Like,
yeah. I get that.
Important talks. Yeah, STD testing. Have you been tested? It's probably an important thing, especially if they're very sexually active.
Wait, do you have that conversation before you do with them, or is that it's after like yo?
You should.
Okay, yeah. Yeah,
I
know, and that's why I'm asking.
It doesn't do very well if you like. I mean, if you're still gonna do it anyway, then like at least you have it in mind. But like you should definitely talk about it before. But on the we can talk about that for a little bit if you want or whatever. I don't know.
Because I think that's an interesting conversation. Yeah. Some people almost feel very like shameful and embarrassed to bring that up. Like, you're clean, you good. But listen, guys, when it comes to safety of yourself and your nether region, nothing is off the table. And I know it's an uncomfortable conversation to have with the person that you're engaging with, but your body will thank you.
I think the problem is too, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. It's just kind of like it is uncomfortable because people aren't really conditioned to talk about sex. That's why I think like talks like this are very important to like just openly
True.
discuss it and be like, hey, it is okay to ask the person this, like, so that way you don't like feel uncomfortable and then you don't ask them and then you get like an STD and now you're like living with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Then again, like if a person has an STD, they should tell you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something that they should disclose.
Yes.
You should. Yeah, that should be disclosed before anything happens.
Yeah.
If not, then it's like that person is
They're just
messed up.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're
that's
just a little questionable.
very very selfish.
And guess what? I've had guy friends who had friends who have done that to people. They would and the way that they would do it is they would turn off the lights so that the person wouldn't see what the dealio was down there, and then the girls contracted whatever they had down there. So that's really fucked up. Don't do that to people, because it's just very manipulative, and it's something that you need to figure out and resolve on your own before you go around passing it on to people. And it's really not fair. It's not a cool thing to do. I understand that you have no value for that person because you just view them as a one-night stand, but that's a really shitty thing to do. So do not do that, please. Don't be that person. The other thing that you could even do is, if like it's a really important thing and you have that level of comfort with the person, like if you're friends with benefits, you can even just go together. The testing is really quick at a clinic. It's actually, is it quick? Is it just urine? I think it's urine.
Depends what you're getting tested for.
Oh, okay. Well, what it's the blood is the other one? Blood.
Blood and urine.
Blood and urine. Still very easy, very quick, and
yeah.
I know in Toronto we have a lot of sex ed clinics, and they do both, and I think some are swabs too, if I'm not mistaken. Like right, swabs. So
for oral, yeah.
For oral, yeah. So there's a lot of there's a lot of places that do this testing, and some of it's even free. I don't know how it is in the States. I know in Canada it's free.
If you're in school, you do get free STD testing. But at most campuses, anyway.
What? I didn't know that. Well,
you also get free condoms
too. Inexpensive.
That's true.
No, not quality ones. You know, they're just like. This is not important. Continue.
No, that's completely fair. No, that is completely fair. Would you guys say that if you are engaging in casual relationships that condoms would be the best way to go, or to ensure that your girl's on a pill, or
they're probably smart, yeah. I don't think you can ever be too safe, but
yeah. I've heard of situations where the girl has been on a pill and the guy still insisted on a condom, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that if that's what makes you feel safe. I don't think anyone should be shamed for being extra safe. Pregnancy is not a funny thing to be joked around with, or STDs is not a funny thing. It's not nothing to be joked around about. So if you do want to be extra safe, don't feel bad about it. And if someone is making you feel bad about it, you need to hit them with those deuces real quick, right quick. Is that fair?
I mean, like.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's fair because like if it depends like what their concern is with like not using a condom too, like in general, like. If it's from like lack of pleasure, there are condoms that, you know, are like just as strong, but maybe things feel better down there when you have sex.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of stuff for that. So like, it doesn't always have to be that.
Yeah, I agree. I have had like two friends that have mentioned to me that they felt pressured to go bareback because the guy was like, oh, it's too tight. It's cutting off circulation. Oh my God, it's cutting off. It hurts so much. Or like, oh my God, it feels like sort of super constricting. And I fully empathize with people who genuinely have those issues. But then you should probably invest in finding a good quality one for you that has the proper size, because nowadays we have things like Stag Shop and Aren't We Naughty and all of these shops that cater to your size. Maybe you're just not hitting up the right size. And for you to make someone feel shitty about wanting to stay protected is a pretty shitty thing to do. So don't be that person. Don't do that. I've heard so many stories actually about that. The whole, oh, did you guys use protection? No, we started to, and then he said this and this and this and this. So, I don't know, man. It's not worth
Yeah,
it.
usually it's like either a guy that's just trying to, get the most out of the experience,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they're inexperienced and, they have a box of condoms that their mom gave them a year ago or something like that, and that's what they use, like, without really trying it. Yeah. Not to shame that, but, I would. That's why sometimes I'm like, I feel like condom fitting should be a thing. Like,
it should be a thing. It should be a thing. And if you guys are planning to, engage in this type of activity and you are looking for that, pay a visit to one of those shops and just look at the options that they have. Have a conversation with someone there, because some of the people, well, most of the people that I did that myself, actually. Like, I didn't know a lot of things. I didn't know what the stag shop was. So I went inside and I like just saw things that they were there. I just was curious about what is there. How do you use that? What is that? Where does that go? What is this? And like, I asked my questions, and the girl there was so nice, and she was even like, so if this is for someone who has more girth but not much length, this one has more length but not much girth, and she was like talking, and she was so cool and open about it. So it is, if you are going to choose to lead this lifestyle and decide to become sexually active, take that extra step and go to those shops to get the protection that you need. Did you say anything to him? What happened? Like, is he still doing it? Wait, I missed something. What if Miss IC says, what if multiple people want to be with you at once and not care if you're already with someone? Just make sure you're using protection and you're open and honest with them, right? That you will be sleeping with multiple people if that's what you decide. Vic says relationships are based on trust. So, you good is good. I don't know, man. That's a little tough. That's a little tough for me, because I think that if I was in a sex buddies relationship or a booty call relationship, I don't know if I would trust I just got tested a couple months ago, I'm good. I don't know. That's a little tough for me. I think even in that situation, I would still use a condom, because I just don't know them enough to build that trust. You can sleep with someone and not trust them. Is that fair to say?
Oh, true.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
100%.
So I think that would require a level of trust. I might be able to do that.
To be fair, though, if you don't trust them, you probably shouldn't.
Shouldn't, yeah, right? Shouldn't, right? But
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just
exactly.
saying.
Yeah. That's also very illegal, isn't it? Like some Law and Order SVU thing. Oh, like if someone if someone transfers an STD with you without you knowing. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's not really any way for you to prove it, too, because it's like it'll be like their word against yours. They'll be, oh, I told them. Oh, no, you didn't. Okay, cool.
Shit.
Like,
true. I know a gay
guy. Unless you have like in writing, like I don't
know. It depends. It depends on the type of STD, actually. So it is illegal, depending if it's a STD that's not cured. You are required by law to tell people. Yeah, like if you have herpes or if you have like the clap or like HIV, like if you don't tell the other person, like it's like there is legal reparations that can happen. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. I have friends that, yeah.
And then would it still be a your word against their word type of situation?
No, because it's in your medical records that you have it. So if you have it and you didn't tell the other person,
what if they say they told it and then, oh, are you just not supposed to be engaging in sex till you get it cured? Is that
no? No, it's not that you can't engage. You have to report. You have to say it to the person. You have to tell the person. The person has to know.
But what if the person says they didn't tell them, but you're like, I told them. They're just playing it off like I didn't tell them, but I told them.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it would be really hard to like.
And then. Yeah, it would be hard to do it, but there are laws around. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
For especially for ones that can't be cured.
Yeah. Miss IC says, I know a gay guy who has HIV and gave it to other men. So yeah, it happens. I'm sure it happens, 100%. BDK, thank you so much for that scrumptious raid and sharing your wonderful community with me. You could have chosen anyone, and you chose me, so thank you very much. And you know the drill. As a thank you for that raid, I will be doing 11 exercise reps. Thank you very, very much. Welcome, everyone. Hello. I am joined by the scrumptious Malik Brown and the King Live. We are currently talking about casual relationships, and my name is Solo Raven. I am a Toronto-based variety streamer. I do a talk show like this every Monday, and I also do horror games, a little bit of Valorant, League of Legends. I used to do fitness streams as well, and volleyball streams before COVID hit. I do Twitch things as well, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
On the same note of like important talks that you should have though, Malik said, not saying that you're exclusive is or like if you don't say that you're exclusive, then you're probably not exclusive, and I kind of like agree with that on some lines. That being said, I still think it's like a good discussion to have, depending
100%,
on where you're at.
Yeah.
So for example, my story is that I was living with this guy, right? He was my roommate, you might call him, because he lived with me. And he was seeing this girl, and they pretty much were hanging out every single night. She was over, they were having sex. And I was becoming to know her. She, like, me and her were friends, and I asked him one time, I was like, she's over a lot, like, are you guys exclusive, or like what's going on? And he was just like, he was like, no, we're not exclusive. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you guys spend like a lot of time together. Like, would you be upset if she like hooked up with somebody else? And he was like, no, I wouldn't care. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. I don't feel like I would be comfortable in that situation if I was spending that much time with the person. I feel like I'd probably want it to be exclusive, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So I just moved on because I was like, okay, whatever. He said he's cool, right?
Yeah.
And I'm hanging out at this fraternity at the time because I was in school. And I'm talking to one of the guys at the fraternity, and she sends me a Snapchat because we're friends. And my friend sees that she Snapchats me, and he's like, oh, I know her. That's the girl I went with dancing with the other day. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Really? Was it a date? And he was like, yeah, it was actually a date. It went really well. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, you should probably know she is seeing my roommate right now. Kind of like they're hanging out like a lot. I know they're having sex. And he was like, oh, that's really weird. She told me that she wasn't seeing anyone. I was like, oh, that's really weird. So I went back and I told my roommate, because I gotta, right? He's my roommate. He's my close friend. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, she's seeing this dude. I don't know if she told you. And he was just like, no, she didn't tell me. And then he got like really upset over it. I was like, dude, I thought you said you were cool.
I asked you the other day, exactly.
Yeah. I thought you said you were cool with it. So he got really upset with her. He stopped talking to her. She got upset with both of them. My other friend stopped talking to her as well. It's just like all this mess could have been avoided if they had just talked about it. Like,
1000%. I think if I do ever choose to engage with someone in a friends with benefits situation, like exclusivity is like right up there. I am way too possessive of a person to healthily possessive of a person to just be like, do whatever you want. For me, it's more like I enjoy spending time with people, with the person. I want to do activities with the person. I want to go to the movies. I want to paint. I want to go like paint nights. I want to do like activities around. And if they're also doing that stuff with other people, like, that's gonna hurt me. I'm not cool with that. And it's good to know that about yourself, guys. Like, don't put yourself in situations where you're not comfortable with that, but you pretend to be comfortable with that so that you can keep that person around, and then shit hits the fan and you find out that they're doing with other people, and you're like grumbling and dying inside, but you just want to keep them around you so bad. Really not healthy. Just talk about it. And if you like want an exclusive relationship or a casual relationship and they're like, that's not for me, then realize, make the decision that's best for you. Don't just force a situation. I feel a lot of people force the situation because they just want to experience it with that person, or they just want to keep that person, or they just want to sleep with the person. Don't force it. I feel like that leads to a lot of negativity as well.
I think people really need to be aware of like how they feel about these things too. Like, so for example, when I asked him if he was okay if she was seeing somebody else, and he told me yes, he very clearly wasn't, because like he got upset over it. Just reflect on, like, don't say what you think is supposed to be the thing.
Yes.
Like, oh, well, we never said we were exclusive, so I have to be okay if she hooks up with somebody else. It's like, yeah, you need to have some self-reflection and be like, okay, well, no, this would actually upset me. Maybe that isn't good.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and have the talk.
Me
personally, I would say I would have that talk like after like maybe like the third time, if like it happens. Like, I feel like 2 times is like okay, it happened the second time. Third time is like okay.
Oh,
like,
now this is a thing.
Yeah. Is this is like, yeah, it's the questions like, is this a thing? Are we exclusive? Like, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
That's when I would have the talk, because I feel like 2 times is like it happened once, it was good, and it happened again, and then that could be it. So.
And I think if you're friends with a person first, you kind of already know what stage they are in their life, if they are looking for a relationship or not. So
Agreed.
if they are looking for a relationship and you sleep with them the first time, I think knowing that right after the first time, you should have that conversation like, I know this happened a one-time thing. Is this a one-time thing, or is this going to be a thing going forward? Or are you hoping this transitions into a relationship? But if you don't know the person, then yeah, I mean, like 1-2 times you would think like, oh, this is just a happenstance. But then third time you're like, okay, hold on. This is a regular. This is becoming a regular thing. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Illusion, hello, by the way. I didn't get to say hello to you. And Dashni, thank you for being here and commenting on Talk That Talk. Is it fair to me if a guy tells me they don't care if I'm with someone that my man don't have to know? That's just wrong, bro. I've heard of people doing that, saying, shh, it's okay. Your man doesn't have to know. But that's on you to tell your man. Is that correct? That's on you to explain it. That's on you to tell your man that you are sleeping with other people or seeing other people. That's not on the guy to tell your partner that they're seeing you. Is that fair?
So interesting, you know. As a guy, I've never been in that. Like, I can't say I've ever been on that side where a girl's like, "Oh, don't tell." Like,
yeah.
Like, it's like your girl don't need to know. And like me personally, as a guy, I mean, I'm sure there's other guys that may have been in that situation.
For the record, if anybody ever asks you to hide information from anybody, that's always a red flag. Like, in any, if they're, oh, don't tell this person. We go. It's like, why don't they want me to tell that person? Oh, because like they want to get with you and they know that person want to be okay with it. There's a conflict of interest. It's like, I don't know.
I think
that's always a red flag. Right?
Yeah. That, for sure. And
it's like the same thing. If you're dating somebody and they're like, "Hey, don't talk about it. Like, don't talk about our relationship to other people." That's really sketchy.
Okay, I'm so glad you mentioned that because I forgot to mention this, or I forgot to ask this. If you're in a casual relationship with someone, do you tell your friends?
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
If you're in a casual relationship with someone, do you tell your friends? Can they come along with your friends' outings? Is this like public knowledge, like they're seeing each other, they're like hooking up? Or is this a down low type of situation?
Me personally, it's always down low, but yeah.
And is that
unless it came out, like whether they can come along with my friends and stuff?
Yeah, and like are we publicly hooking up, or is this a down low situation? Are we like hiding?
If I asked you about it while you were seeing somebody, would you tell me, or like would you
no, sorry, this is like a side a side conversation of like just general friends with benefits. So like me and King, we start hooking up. And do we have a conversation about this? Like, hey, are we telling our friends, or are we just like hiding in the closet and doing it, or hiding along and going around doing this kind of stuff, or does everyone know about us? Like, does it become
I feel like that
public
depends on the
knowledge?
person.
Okay.
That depends on the person. Like me personally, I'm very much I keep my experiences to myself. I don't like letting people know like when I do that, unless I'm like considering like doing like something more with somebody. Then is when I'd start doing it. Until that point, like no, unless they were like already in my social circle. And then we like started hooking up in that case, then it's like we already have like an established social circle. It's whatever. It's not even that it's strange. People won't make assumptions because we were like already all friends. That's my opinion of it.
I think everybody knows is a little aggressive too. Like, it's not like anybody like you're expected to go out and tell every single person, you know. But like, I think that like if you are asked about it and you need to lie about it, I think that's a little sketchy. Like, hey, you specifically said, hey, are you two like seeing each other? And you're like, nope, not happening. Like, that's not a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
that's what
like
I'm asking. Weird. Like, is it like down low? Like, no, or is it okay if people know? Is that a rule, do you think, around casual relationships that people don't generally know?
Again, I think it will depend for a lot.
I don't. Yeah, I feel like I'll tell people, but I won't just say. I'll be like, I'm talking to somebody. It's like as much
Yeah,
as I'll
it's
say.
phrasing. It's how you phrase it.
Yeah, phrasing. It's phrasing how you phrase it. It's like, yeah, I'm talking to this girl, and they're like, oh, is it a thing? I'm like, not really. We're just talking. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That makes it actually very clear. Because if you're just saying like we're just talking, we're just spending time together,
Yeah.
that's clearly establishing that this is not a romantic, long-term type of relationship. Okay,
Exactly.
and
Hmm.
and how does one go about breaking up a friends with benefits relationship? How do you end it? How do you stop it?
Probably best to rip the band-aid off and just have that conversation. Um,
I
I've
agree
had
with
people
that.
ghost me. I've had people ghost me, and that shit that's annoying.
Ghosting hurts.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
ghosting thing. Don't do the ghosting. Would you be okay if someone gave you the honest truth and just said like, "Listen, this is something that's not working for me anymore, and it was really nice while it lasted, but I think like I'm kind of want to move on to the next chapter of my life. But it was really nice spending
I'd be
time with
bummed,
you."
but I'd appreciate it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel like a lot of people are not honest because they're afraid of hurting the other person, but they don't realize that by ghosting, you're actually making things worse. And people, like for example, Malik just said, they would appreciate the honesty. They would be bummed. They would be bummed, but they would appreciate the honesty. And I feel like you don't even give them a chance to have that uh, bit of like closure if you just rob them of that and just ghost them. So I
True.
don't think ghosting is the right way to go
I
about
also
it.
think ghosting is disrespectful, just straight up.
It
It's
is
like saying they're not worth the time to even say goodbye to, or like yeah, or we're done.
That's how I would take it too. That's how I would interpret it as well. What about you, King?
I feel like if somebody ghosts me, they're denying me that closure, which is like really hurtful. It's just like I'm a very open person too, and I'll always talk to somebody about like anything. So like if they felt like they couldn't talk to me about something, then that's like very hurtful. They just couldn't address it. Um, I don't think I'd ever ghost somebody. Even if I did split it off with somebody and they still like they needed somebody to talk to and they reached out to me, I'd still be like I feel comfortable talking to them. Plus that's another thing. Like I said, I'm from a small town, so if you ghost somebody, it's like really awkward because you're probably gonna see them in public at some
Gonna
point in
run
time.
into them.
Yeah, and then it's gonna be like really weird because then they're like, "Oh, I ghosted that person." I had a girl that I went to high school with actually. I don't know what I did, but she tried to hide from me one time when I went into like a restaurant. Like I don't know if you guys have Panera or anything. I like literally walked into Panera.
Yeah.
We made eye contact, and then she like hid, and I didn't know what happened because I didn't know I did anything. So I texted her. I was like, "Hey, are we cool?" And they're like, "Yeah, I think that like after you graduated, we didn't need to talk anymore." And I was like, "Okay, that's fine, but like you don't need to hide from me." Like,
I'm not gonna
it was, like,
approach
weird.
you or something.
Yeah,
Like,
it is odd. Like I was like, I don't know what I did, but okay, cool, that's sweet. But I know now. Like,
do you feel like that expectation comes from developing a physical relationship with someone? Like even though you don't have an emotional relationship with them, the fact that you guys have built this like physical rapport, you almost just expect that decency of like, dude, we had something. It would be nice to just at least get a goodbye and a reason for you leaving.
well, a lot of
Like
these people are
a
like
conversation that
it's
it's ended. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that too.
They're like super close friends or like people that you've known for like a while. Like sometimes like these relationships can go on for like maybe a couple months, and it's just like, wow, if you spent a lot of time with this person, yeah, I think I'd like to be told like, hey, I don't think this is working out. We should probably stop talking. It's like, okay, I deserve that decency.
Okay. Is it safe to say, or what do you think about the statement that casual relationships usually don't mean anything?
I think to say that they don't mean anything is probably not entirely true. Like, I think to some people, especially
I think
friends
that's
with benefits. So like I don't know, maybe like a one night stand or something, it probably doesn't mean a whole lot.
Exactly, right.
But if you're like friends with benefits with somebody, I think that there's probably something there. It's maybe just not the right time or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe like one of the people doesn't want to commit, but
Yeah. I agree. I think actually all three of those tiers, the sex buddies, what was it? The sex buddies, the booty call, and the friends with benefits. I think all of those have some level of value to your life. Even if it's minimal, I don't think you can see it means nothing. I mean, you're constantly seeing this person physically, and I find it very hard to believe, with human beings being such social creatures, that there wasn't even one time where you felt some type of way for the person, even if it was just a fleeting moment. But you've got to be like very, very, very. You've got to have your heart severely and your mind severely compartmentalized to be on that level where you can just have these 3 tiers of relationships and have literally nothing going on inside of your head or your heart. So I truly believe that it is definitely an incorrect statement when people say that it doesn't mean anything. Casual relationships is just sex and it doesn't mean anything. It can be just sex, but it doesn't have to not mean anything, I think.
I feel like anything past the first time doesn't mean something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
So basically what you guys said, like, yeah, a one night stand is like it's like a fleeting moment, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just like, so it happened, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. It's like
It's like
if
an
you
itch.
like drunkenly kiss, like an itch, or like
Yeah.
you drunkenly kiss somebody
Yeah.
or something. Like it doesn't have to mean something.
Right. It was just in
Yeah.
the moment.
In the moment,
Whatever.
it felt right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I think that, again, it goes back to, I think one of the themes of this talk, not only communication, but honesty. Honesty with yourself. If you're going to keep playing off that these relationships that you're getting yourself into don't mean anything, you're just fooling yourself, because there will be a time where you kind of like sit back and reflect on your life and be like, oh, damn, that's sort of like what I needed at that time in my life. And it did provide X, Y, and Z. It did contribute this to my life. And I think when you reflect on things like that and you acknowledge that they aren't just completely meaningless relationships, you see them for what they are, and then you get to enjoy them for what they are as well, because you're not trying to fight against the part of you that's trying to acknowledge what the relationship truly is at its essence and at its core. You're accepting it, you're okay with it, and you're moving forward in whatever which way that you want. So I like that you guys mentioned that. Wait. Jeremy says ghosting is so much worse than just being honest. I 1000% agree. I have, not in a sexual way, but I have ghosted people like in friendships in general. And I have made an active effort in the last little while to not ghost people. I have not responded to people for many, many days. And I think that's different than ghosting someone. In my opinion, ghosting someone is like you have no intentions of ever communicating with them again. And you getting behind and responding to messages is just you getting behind and responding to messages. And the way I combat that to make sure the other person doesn't take it as ghosting is I'll communicate with them and be like, I'm just a really busy person and I choose to prioritize other things over texting. So if I get behind in texts, that's why. Honesty, man, it really makes a huge difference. Slay says ghosting sucks, but funny thing was in a way I'd be stuck in the same house with them during isolation if that didn't happen. Wait, what? Funny thing was, in a way, I'd be stuck in the same house with them during isolation if that didn't happen. If you didn't ghost them, you would have been stuck with them. Okay, I see what you're saying. Vic says, what's all 3 of your guys's been ghosted? Did the ghosting ratio? Oh, that's like a good question, Vic. So for you guys, how many times, or I guess what's the ratio is like, how many times what's the percentage of you ghosting someone and you being ghosted in a sexual encounter or / relationship?
What does it mean to be ghosted in a casual relationship? Was that the question?
Oh, no, the question is like, I guess a percentage of how many times you've ghosted someone as opposed to someone ghosting you.
Sorry, Kane.
Oh, I have never ghosted anybody that I had a serious relationship with. I've ghosted people like online that I just didn't enjoy playing games with, but I don't think that's really necessarily the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know this person and I never will know this person, but they rage when I play League of Legends with them, and it's not cool.
Dude, I get that. Did you mean specifically sexually, Vic, or did you mean like just in general? Because the answers vary quite drastically. So.
In terms of like me being ghosted though, I think I was ghosted. I don't know. I guess that's the only way I could describe it. Relatively recently by a close friend, or not close friend, but like we were probably like sort of near the area of casual relationship, but not really. And I don't know. They ghosted me, and that was a little weird. I'm not super broken up about it, but it was just kind of like a damn, dude. What? You could have told me. Like
It's like a smack to the face. Yeah.
yeah,
Would you reach out to
fuck,
them? Would you call them out?
No. They had a
I
boyfriend.
would.
I was like, I don't want to get involved with it. They probably ghosted me. It was one of those relationships where I was like, I don't want to get involved in this. Like, I was just like, I think that he was jealous of the situation that I was friends with them, and I'm just like, okay. But I saw them in public recently. It was like you see each other and you're like, you ghosted me. But you don't bring it up.
Ooh, that's
you
so
don't bring
weird.
it up.
Oh, that's weird. Oh, I don't like that. That's weird. Ooh.
Yeah, that's small towns for you. That's what I'm saying.
Ooh. See, guys, for anyone who knows me, like, I'm at that stage in my life where I need to push it to rest, okay? Like, there was one day I was on fire, baby. I was texting left, right, and center, closing that conversation out, closing that down. And I'm not talking romantically, and I'm not bragging like, oh, I talked to so many people. Not that. Just people that I was keeping in my life because I didn't want to be seen as... I struggle with this thing, or I used to struggle with this thing, where even though... friendships weren't necessarily good for me, or they weren't really providing me with anything in my life, and I wished to no longer continue speaking every day or very often, I would continue speaking often because I knew that that's what they wanted and that's how they felt like connecting towards me. But I guess recently I've kind of become more sure of myself, and I guess it's a tier of being selfish where I'm like, that's not what works for me. If you actually think about it, guys, there's 24 hours in the day, right? And if someone's going to expect a bit of that time, it really doesn't leave much time for yourself aside from work and your time and all the other things that you're doing in your life. So those few hours that you get, that downtime that you get, is very precious. So it's almost like we've become entitled to people's time, and when people call us out for being entitled to their time, like, we shit on them. When what? Yeah.
Can I give you my controversial opinion that most people get really upset with me when I say, but I think that you might understand?
Go.
So I have always had the belief that I think that people choose how they spend their time, and if you ask somebody to hang out and they say, oh no, I'm busy, or I don't have time for that, generally what they mean is I have other things that I'm going to do, which is like have the other time, right? So if you make the decision to watch an episode of Netflix, you are actively making the decision to do that over other things, right?
Yes.
So like if you ask somebody to hang out, a lot of the times they probably do have the time to hang out. They're probably just choosing to do other things, which there is nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. 1,000%.
Anybody, you are allowed to spend your time however you want.
That is exactly what I was trying to say. And
but people get like really upset when you say that. You're like, hey, I would rather watch Netflix, and they're like, what? Why without hanging out with me? It's like
and that's why I said, like, we've become entitled to people's time, and so that's why recently I've went through this like phase in my life where I was just shutting things down, where I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with that. I don't like that. I don't like that, and things I was just putting up with for so long because I just didn't want to like hurt other people, or I was putting their needs above mine, and I was trying to make everybody happy. And it just got way too overwhelming for me. I couldn't do it anymore. And I was lying to myself. So I recently just came clean with myself. I acknowledged what I needed to keep me happy and make me happy. And the people who understood that, they're still in my life. And if they don't understand that, wouldn't have worked out in the long term anyways. Am I right or am I correct, baby? I'm right and correct.
You both, girl.
Yeah. So yeah, I've never ghosted. I've never recently ghosted. I'm sure I've done it in the past, but I've never recently ghosted. I always give a reason, regardless of how the person takes it. I try to be as cordial and as polite and as straightforward as I can with why I'm choosing to exit out of this person's life. But I do give something to them.
And you are entitled to spend your time however you want. If you don't want to talk to somebody, if you don't feel like you have to. You don't owe that person the time of day.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I'm surprised how long it took me to get to a stage where I was like, oh, I can I don't have to continue talking to this person if I don't want to. And if they villainize me for that or demonize me for that, that's a them problem. That's not a me problem. I just chose to do what's right for me.
True. Very true. I agree.
Miss IC said,
I've ghosted people.
oh, have you? And why did you choose
Yeah.
to ghost them over talking to them?
They told me something that I didn't feel comfortable with, and I wanted to end it right then and there. So ghosting them just felt like the most appropriate thing to do because I did not want to talk to them about it. Yeah. That's the only time I think it makes sense to, or like.
But it's not like they
I
would
don't
be
think
like,
it is a
whoa,
good
I didn't
thing
see
to
it
do.
coming. They wouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they said something that I was like, yikes, and so, yeah, I ghosted them because I was like, okay, I'm done here.
I'm done. Yeah.
On
I'm
that
done.
same note, if they make you feel unsafe too, yeah, you don't. It just goes. Like,
Yeah, there's no point. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation about forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to spend the time that you want how you want it, because society or like people have made us feel like you should be spending your time with X, Y, and Z, and you're almost shamed for not doing that, or you're shamed for spending too much time doing things that you're passionate about. And it's your time, man. You choose that. You do how you want to do. But at the same time, you can't make those decisions. Well, you can, but it's annoying if you make those decisions and then complain about, oh my God, I don't have friends. Well, you spend all your time on your passions. You spend all your time making music. You spend all your time playing games. How are you going to make friends outside in the real world? Right? Like, if you're going to make your choices, hold yourself accountable for your choices, and like be responsible for those decisions that you're making and those decisions that you're consciously making. Don't then complain about those, because you're supposed to make those decisions knowing the repercussions of your actions. Right? Miss IC says, what should I do if one of my friends knows I'm with someone, but we are friends with benefits, but I keep asking him when he's going to get a girlfriend, and he says soon, but he still wants to do it with me, and I'm like, what if I get married one day and he's scared of that because then he can't do it with me anymore? I mean, he uses a condom, but still, I do want to get married one day. So I'm a little confused. You're with two people at one time, or you're just with him? Because you said your friend knows that you're with someone, but we are in a friends with benefits. So you and your friend are with the friends with benefits, and then you're in a relationship with someone else? Or maybe if you can explain that a little more, Miss IC. Those don't sound like clearly defined relationships, Slay says. Maybe you need to talk about it with both of them. They both... Yeah, exactly. Miss IC says, I tell my man everything, but my friend doesn't want me to get married to my man. But it's your choice, baby. It's your choice. You can't let other people rule your life and tell you what to do. Because he wants to keep doing it with me, and I'm like, no, buddy, you need a girlfriend. But at the same time, you can't tell him to go get a girlfriend. You can only be responsible for your own life and your own decisions. So if he chooses to stick around, hoping that one day you won't get married or you'll dump your husband and come for him, that's a him problem. If you've made it clear to him that I'm gonna possibly marry this guy one day, and I want to continue being with this person, this might eventually become a serious thing, you've done your part of explaining to the other person. They can never throw that in your face. And that's why when I was talking to you guys, when I was asking Malik and King about their opinion about sleeping with someone despite the fact that you're not facially attracted to them, but you're physically attracted to them, and them kind of hitting you up with the, why did you sleep with me if you're not attracted to me then? Because it bothers me when you're transparent with people and you're honest with people, and I guess people are not used to honesty, so when they're approached by it, they're like, no, this is not true. This can't be true. And they find every reason to like disprove what you're telling them. It's like those people when you're just like, no, I don't like you. I don't like you like that. And they'll keep working towards somehow changing your mind when you've explicitly explained to them that you don't like them like that and you don't look at them like that. It's kind of like the same token.
I'd be very careful around somebody too who has openly expressed that they want to get with you, especially if you're in a relationship, and question their motives. If you ever get out of that relationship and that person's immediately there to comfort you, just be careful of their motives. Because if they're not respectful to you while you're in a relationship, they're probably not going to be respectful to you when you're out.
That's a fair point. Vic says casual relationships wise. Mega D, hi! If you sleep for 8 hours, work for 8 hours, have an hour for travel, at least 7 hours in the day. Exactly. So those 7 hours of the day, I'm going to choose to spend it on whomever and doing whatever I want. And no one can judge me for that. As long as you're not hurting other people. I don't fucking care. I've ghosted
who sleeps for 8 hours? I'm a 12-hour sleeper right here. I only got 12 hours in my day.
Zessa says, that's right. D says, I've ghosted interviews.
I sleep like 5 hours.
5 hours? I envy you. I wish. Oh my gosh. I waste so much time sleeping.
D, you've ghosted interviews?
I sleep 5 hours a day.
How? You just don't show up? Oh, so Miss Icy clarified. She says, I'm with my man, but my friend wants to have sex with me. Yeah, that's a shady friend. I don't know. Ugh. I don't know, dude. You should probably, have you expressed to him explicitly that that's disrespectful? Like, you are with someone committed, it seems, and they are still trying to pressure you to sleep with them? I don't know. That seems a little strange.
Sure if that's your friend anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, man. D says, after 8 hours of sleep, my body is like, get the fuck up. You can't lie there, but you can lie there, but you ain't sleeping anymore. I've done phone screenings for jobs, then looked into a company and didn't like. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. I told him, but he doesn't care and he likes me. Okay, is there any way you can cut him out of your life? Because it doesn't seem like he's a good friend, really, and it seems kind of toxic to continuously have a person like that, kind of badgering you to sleep with you to sleep with them. Yeah, sorry. We are approaching the end of the talk. What I wanted to, the last question I wanted to ask you guys is, have you ever been in a situation in which a casual relationship got complicated or ruined a friendship? I don't think I've ever been in a situation like kind of what I was explaining earlier about the relationship started to resemble a real relationship, so it started to get a little blurry between what we were, because we were friends with benefits, but we were acting like we were in a relationship. So I had to explicitly sit down and ask, how would this relationship be different if we were actually in a relationship? And then they listed the ways it would be different, but it turns out the list that he had wasn't very different. And that kind of registered to me like, oh shoot, okay, so we're approaching, like, we're getting really close to an actual relationship, and I need to evaluate whether that's something that I want or not. Or if that's just his version of a friends with benefits relationship, and I've been very clear about what my version is, and, you know, like, we just move forward knowing that our definitions are different and what we want from it are different, and that's okay because they're an adult and they're making the choice to stay. So level of accountability has to be
yeah, sorry, I had to think about that, and I had to, like, actually somewhat, yeah, I've had that happen to me in the past, and it did not end well, because like it was like somebody that I had like hooked up with over the summer. Then I went back to college, and she was under the impression that we were dating, and I thought it was just a summer fling.
Ooh,
and
shoot.
Yeah. But like I still talked to her because she was a cool person, so I would still like respond to her messages and all that stuff. And she thought we were dating and all this stuff.
Oh my god.
And she had like started like setting like expectations, like, oh, we need to like video chat every week or whatever, blah blah blah.
Oh
blah.
man.
And like I was like, why? And she's like, because we're dating. And I'm like, we're not dating. And then she got like really upset. Yeah.
Oh no.
And that got ugly. And then she's like, well, we were dating. I'm like, okay, well then I guess we break up. Like, I'm breaking up with you. I don't. Yeah, it was.
Ooh,
it was a very awkward. It was
fun, no.
Yeah. It was not fun. I felt so bad too. because
Oh,
like
wow.
I was like under the impression, and I was at like a party with like friends, and I wasn't expecting the conversation to go that way, and I was like in front around all these people. It was just not. It was not good.
Oh my
So
god, and it
yeah,
was in public. Oh my
yeah,
god, that's awkward.
it
Oh
was
my
awkward as
god.
hell.
I had a friendship end one time. Well, it wasn't really. It was a relationship, but it was like one of my best friends. We were really close. We started dating, but I still had feelings for somebody else. That conflicted with a lot of things. And
Mm-hmm.
long story short, I no longer have that best friend. So that's shitty. Don't get involved with people if you have feelings for other people. That's not a good thing to do. I learned that too
Mm-hmm.
late, unfortunately. But
Mm-hmm. I
you live and
completely
you learn. I'm
agree.
glad that it happened in high school, though. Like, I don't date in high school. That would be my advice to
Yo,
people
I say
if you're
the
watching
same
this.
thing. High
Um,
five.
well, like high schoolers just don't know how to treat people. And you
Yes.
might think that you do. I definitely didn't. So I was like, oh yeah, I've been in a relationship before. I know what I'm doing, but it's just like I don't know. I guess I'm happy that I had those experiences, so I don't like
Yeah.
fuck up in the future.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with that as well. I feel like if you're going to, I mean, maybe it's the way I was raised or what I've seen and what I've experienced, going through high school and not dating myself. But just whenever I was in high school and I would look around, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want any of this because in my head, I always wanted a stable relationship and I wanted to get into a relationship for the long term. I wasn't looking for something casual. So that's not where you start that kind of shit, in my opinion. You don't start that in high school because then what about like university, college, all that stuff? Like, and at that time, you're not fully like emotionally developed yet, I feel, to have a, you know, there are exceptions to the rule, but in my opinion, at least the guys that I met, they were not emotionally developed enough to have a long term relationship, gearing themselves towards marriage at that age. And if they weren't in that mindset, I didn't want to have any part of it. So I just didn't date when I was in high school. So I would highly advise against it as well if you have that same kind of mindset and you're looking for something like totally long term, something that's going to end, you have your vision set on like, I need a long term relationship that's eventually going to get into marriage. I wouldn't start in high school, my personal experience and opinion, but totally up to you guys. But yeah, that brings us to the end of our talk. Did you guys have anything that you wanted to end off with, like any lessons or any advice that you wanted to leave people with so they can reflect and apply it to their lives, or people who might be considering getting into a casual relationship? Any like last thoughts you wanted to leave people with?
Be safe. Talk to the person. I will. I don't think there's anything better that you can do in your personal relationships than just communicate. Whether it's awkward or not, you always talk to the people that you are close to.
Mm-hmm. 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 I agree.
Communicate, like King said, and have fun
Mm-hmm.
because it's supposed to be something fun. I know we talked about all these risks and all these different things, but in the end, it's supposed to be a way to share a pleasurable act with somebody else. So try to make the most of it.
Yeah. Jeremy says communication is key and know what you're getting into 100% and know yourself. I think that would be my biggest takeaway, is not just the communication, which is so vital to any type of relationship, but also know yourself, like know why you're getting into these relationships, know what you're bringing to the table, knowing what you're trying to get out of these relationships is so important. And as we mentioned earlier, if you are looking to fill a void, like an emotional void with these relationships, and you are not okay, and that's the only reason that you're going for these relationships, because you're just genuinely lonely and you're sad and you just want someone to take away that sadness, it's probably not the best way to go about it. I've been in a similar situation, and that's why I feel so passionately about that, because I realize that it's just not the right thing to do. It's really damaging, really damaging. And a lot of people won't tell you that because we live in a society where casual relationships are glorified, and they are almost, they're very close to being the norm in certain stages of your life. So this is why we're here. We're here to give you the real talk, the real lowdown, the good and the bad, the different points of view on casual relationships. And I hope that if you do choose to lead that lifestyle or get into casual relationships, that you do it after reflecting on yourself and thinking about all of these things, or some of these things at least, that we talked about today. Because as Malik said, it is supposed to be something fun. It is supposed to be something lighthearted. It is supposed to bring joy to your life and comfort and just happiness. But if it's something that's going to bog you down and make you more sad, it's definitely not a good positive addition to your life. Miss IC is talking about... I told him that he doesn't care he likes me. He should be more worried about his kid. About his kids too. I've ghosted someone on Facebook because they kept making multiple accounts to try to have video chats. Oh my god. And I didn't like him like that, and he already was with a female. I blocked 20 of his Facebook. Oh my god. That's definitely a type of stalker situation. Wow. Yeah, that definitely sounds like something you should report. I don't care who knows his name. He needs to stop talking to multiple things at a time. And remember to use condiments. Exactly. Oh, that's such a good point. Thank you for mentioning that. And if someone shames you or makes you feel bad for being, for using protection and taking care of yourself, or pressures you to even get into that kind of relationship or be physical with them, please do not go through with that. That is definitely not the right person that you should get involved with. And if you are choosing to spend your time with someone casually or hooking up on a one-night stand or whatever it is, let someone know the address, let someone know the picture and description of the person as well. That's like serious stuff, guys. Real talk. So I'm gonna take a 2-second break to say goodbye to Malik and King offline and thank them for their time. If you guys just hang tight for a little bit, I will be right back. Malik and King, do you want to say bye to everyone in chat?
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
I'll be right back, guys. Alrighty, guys. I am back. Thank you so much for being patient with me. I had to say goodbye to our scrumptious friends, and we are going to be sending that good loving over to the Krugs. So again, thank you so much for making me part of your night, guys. I hope this was a fun talk. I sure learned a lot, and I love discussions like these with the way we bring these types of conversations to light in a totally judgment type zone, judgment free zone. It's very important to have these conversations. And if you have someone in your life who is participating in these types of relationships and they come to you for advice, try not to shun them away. Don't judge them. It's their life. Let them be. Of course, make sure that you're providing them with advice about like being safe, and you're there for them. Like, allow them to text you their person's address and headshots and stuff, so that God forbid something happens, you at least have them covered. I think that's such a good piece of advice, because there are so many people that still well, there will always be people that are very judgmental, especially when it comes to other people's lives surrounding their love life and sex life. And it's just very unfortunate, and that could alienate some people and keep them from talking to you and approaching you when they really need you. So just be that person that people can come to and talk to about these types of things, and they won't feel shamed, because this is people's love life is something that people go through all the time. It's just a natural part of life. And if you're truly their friend, they should feel comfortable, and you should make them feel comfortable coming to you and talking to you about this kinds of stuff. So I hope that I conveyed our thought. I hope we conveyed our thoughts clearly and effectively, and I hope that everyone felt like this was a judgment-free zone, because it is. And definitely check the 2 scrumptious friends that I had on here, Malik Brown and the King Live. Definitely show them that good lovin'. And we're going to spread our good lovin' over to Krugs, who is another Canadian streamer. He is a wonderful friend of mine, and I had the pleasure of meeting him at TwitchCon. And if you would like to be involved in our Discord, please do not hesitate to join. We do a lot of cool stuff there. So again, as a refresher, on my stream every Monday, I have my Ravens Real Talk. Every Tuesday is community night. Every Wednesday is horror hump Friday, where we play a horror game. Right now, I'm trying to finish Home Sweet Home Part 2. That game is pissing me off. I'm like trying to finish it. Every Thursday, we have a watch party, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday is kind of like up in the air, depending if I can stream or not. So yes, let's show that good lovin' to Krugs, and God willing, I will see you all soon. I'm really glad that you guys enjoyed the talk. Thank you, Slade. Thank you, Jeremy and Zessa, for saying that you enjoyed the talk and you liked the talk. Thank you. Have a good night, and maybe I'll see some of you guys on Valorant later if you're down. Take care, stay scrumptious, and Raven out. Let's go.